Okay, everyone, welcome to the Wednesday midweek edition of Reality Check here on the home of Black Talk Media. It's none other than WURD. Welcome to the program. Welcome to your daily dose of public affairs, politics, public policy here on WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. Also, wordradio.com if you're listening beyond the greater Philly, Delaware Valley area, also by WURD TV and WURD app as well on your favorite digital device. I'm your host, executive producer, also creator of Reality Check, Charles Ellison. You can reach me on twitter.com at Ellison Report. That's my preferred choice of social media poison. Go to twitter.com at Ellison Report. Tag us at Ellison Report. Also join in at the hashtag Reality Check as well. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the midweek. It's Wednesday. It's the hump day, as some folks out there call it. Appreciate people watching in and tuning in as well on WURD TV through our Facebook live stream. Go to facebook.com/4word. Also on YouTube, youtube.com/onWURD as well. Appreciate everyone there. Good morning to you and happy midday. And later on, it'll be good afternoon as we head into the noon hour, ready for our 3 hours of Reality Check that starts now. Joining us actually right now by phone is Virgie Rawlins, who is the Black Caucus Chair for the Democratic National Committee. The DNC is the National Democratic Party, and Virgie Rawlins joins us here to talk about the black vote in 2020, what Democrats are doing about that, how they're preparing for what will be a very high-stakes election. It is already a very high-stakes election, probably and arguably the most high-stakes election ever in our history. Virgie Rawlins joins us by phone. Virgie, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and thanks for having me to be a part of your program.
All right. No, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate this. I'm glad we finally caught up with you. So what makes the 2020 DNC strategy different from the 2016 DNC strategy? I know there's a lot of comparisons between these two campaigns. There's a lot of anxiety and a lot of worries, and people making sure that Democrats don't make some of the same missteps from 2020 or some of the same sort of calamities from 2016 don't happen again in 2020. What's your thought on that?
Well, the first thing is that, and this term around is with our chair, it's a 50-state strategy, and we start organizing early. And the one great thing about it is that we did not just start with the African American community. We've been doing this since Chairman Perez took over as the chair of the DNC. He started with saying that we're not going to wait till October to go to the black community before and start going to churches. So we've been organized. We have so many organizers on the ground in many states, and especially with our battleground states, we have just a number. And it's a cross-section of people of color and, and people who live within the community. What
are those pockets of black voters or black communities that you're focused on, or what are those battleground states where black voters hold the decisive edge in your mind? What are those states you're looking at?
Well, we're looking at, of course, Michigan, where I am, and Wisconsin, and of course Philadelphia, Florida, Arizona. We put in Arizona this time. We've got a number of states that we're going to be working hard in to make sure that African American communities are fully engaged and energized.
Now, in energizing them, how do we go about that? Like, and what's sort of the agenda? What's the Democrats' black agenda, or what issues are you prioritizing when you have those conversations directly with black voters in those key battleground states?
the issues, we're talking now about, you see what's going on in our country, the disparities in the healthcare system, the disparities in the criminal justice system, and the disparities in the educational system. Those are big in our communities, and we're now engaged into making sure that the get out the vote effort and voting by mail, we're talking about the issues that are affecting our communities more, and making sure that people, that what their issues are, that we're engaged in as far as our candidate. And I think this time we got probably one of the best candidates we can have, who's now our presumptive Democratic nominee, in Joe Biden.
The other thing too is, and I remember saying, we had actually this Howard University Business School professor on quite a while back before the pandemic. He had written this New York Times editorial, which I found very insightful but troubling, about the hundreds of thousands of untapped black voters in 2016. I'm not sure if you saw that op-ed or saw those numbers. And like in Pennsylvania, for example, there was like nearly 400,000 eligible black voters that just weren't tapped, did not participate in the 2016 election. Do you feel like we could have that same problem, Virgie? Like I saw a YouGov poll recently where there's still, compared to other demographic groups, black voters the most likely to say that still a majority of black voters are going to participate in 2020, but the black voting demographic, the most likely to say, I won't vote in 2020, compared to white voters and compared to Latino voters. That's very troubling. And I'm wondering, like, what is the DNC, are you aware of that, and what is the DNC going to do about it?
The thing of it is with this racist demagogue in the White House, I think black folks, if you saw in 2018 what we did in 2018, electing Democrats up and down the ticket and got more African Americans elected in key states around the country, I think with the man that we have in the White House, that to me has motivated so many African Americans. That as I traveled around the country before the pandemic, I think people were we were educating and training and getting more grassroots people organized. And I think this has helped, because I think people our are more engaged when you have young folk out in the streets now after what has happened with George Floyd and many of our African-American men and women who've been killed by the police. I think more African-Americans are engaged and they're aware of the issues. I think that's the motivation in itself, because I look at how even when we're talking and now at our town hall and engaging more young people, I think that's the motivating factor, is getting this man out of the White House because of what has happened in our community. We have more black folks dying in this pandemic and brown people than any other ethnic group. And I think if this is not a motivating factor, and looking at what has happened with our educational system and the criminal justice system, I mean, with the police brutality and this administration that dropped the ball, and all the great things that the former President Barack and Vice President Biden put in place is now gone away. I mean, the centuries. And so I think with this, what has happened with the criminal justice system and the healthcare system and more black people dying, I think that's a motivating factor. And I think you're going to see more black folks, plus with the organizing that we have in place with the DNC, we put more black young folk out in these battleground states organizing and getting ready and making sure that we, just in Michigan alone, we have 100,000 more folk requesting ballots in Wayne County and just in Detroit, where in 2016 there was only 60,000 in the whole election. So I think the motivating factor has been the person in the White House.
Yeah. We're talking with, if you're just now tuning in, we're talking with Virgie Rollins. She is the Black Caucus Chair for the Democratic National Committee. Go to Democrats.org for more information on the Democratic National Committee, on the National Democratic Party. Virgie Rollins joining us by phone. So we know like how destructive, how devastating President Trump has been. You can definitely make the argument that like the pandemic is here because of President Trump. We know how he's crippled socioeconomic and public health conditions for Black people. We know like the type of damage that Black people have absorbed as a result of the Trump administration. So we know what we're voting against, but do Black voters really have a sense of what they're going to vote for? What they're going to vote for? What's the alternative? I think that's the other thing I think people have a lot of questions about. Okay, I'm going to be voting against Donald Trump, but in his place, what am I voting for? What am I voting for in a Democrat in the White House? What am I voting for potentially in Democrats running not just the House, but also the Senate? Is their agenda going to be better? What's that agenda?
We voted for jobs. We voted for better health care. The affordable health care has been damaged so complete. He's taken out, the only thing left, I think, is the sense that you can get a basic health care. We're going to have better health care. We're going to have better jobs. The criminal justice, I think with Vice President Joe Biden, we're going to get better the criminal justice, because under Barack and Vice President Joe Biden, with Eric Holder was the Attorney General, the disparities in the sentencing changed, and I think we looking at, that's what you're going to be voting for. With the racists, we'll get the racists out of the White House. With things that are going on, the crazy Karens and I'm just looking where you've got the noose and the hanging is back with Black folks. That's going to go away. I know there's a lot to be cleaned up here, and I think that Vice President Joe Biden, I don't think President Obama would have picked Vice President Joe Biden if he didn't have faith and trust in him. And so,
one other thing I'm also, and Virgin, I don't know if you're aware, because there is an article in USA Today about young Black voters and about how they're not really excited about Biden at all. There was this Democracy Fund UCLA Nationscape Project poll that was done in conjunction with the Washington Post in May. And it found that 68% of Black voters ages 18 to 29 plan to vote for Biden. That's demonstrably down from, I think it was like 85% of young Black voter support for Hillary Clinton in 2016, compared versus 91% of Black seniors who say they are going to vote for Biden. So, I mean, that's a huge gap there. I'm wondering how you get younger Black voters more involved and more, because I saw the numbers back in 2016, and younger Black voters, Black millennials, I mean, they were like, their voter participation rate dropped 6 percentage points in 2016. I hope that doesn't happen again, and I hope Democrats are prepared for that in 2020 to get them out in big numbers.
Well, clearly our work is cut out for us, and we're going to be working hard. We're gonna do everything we can, because I got a millennium in my house, and they are kind of discouraged because of all the craziness that are going on as far as the police and the racial profiling. And I think,
see, that's my thing. I don't know. Is that going to translate into massive young voter Gen Z and millennial voter turnout? Like, they're protesting, but then I think the real big question mark is that protest going to transfer into votes, people turning out in big numbers? Or are they going to be depressed? Are they going to just say, hey, you know what, forget about it. I don't like this old white guy, Biden. And then there's the whole thing about the 94 crime bill. I'm just, that they keep harping on. And so that's a big concern with a lot of people.
Well, I'm a product of the 60s, and I was a former Black Panther. And what the folks told me to get my fist out the air and get a seat at the table, and I did. And that's what and that's what I'm talking about to them. You can get out here and protest, but you got to change the rules and the laws.
Right.
And when you look at who's making the laws, and you got to be a part of the solution. And so I know our work is cut out for us, and we're going to be working hard to educate them and to support them and to make sure that they're involved as much as we can. As we travel around, we got a number of young people who are involved as far as organizing in the DNC. We're going to get more of them who are out here organizing these protests. We're going to try to follow them around the country and get them more participate in the process. And we're going to do everything we can to motivate them and to get them involved before the election. And I know we got a few months to do that, but we're going to do our best to try to get them involved.
Hey, also one last question too, Ms. Virgie. As far as the investments that the DNC is ramping up its fundraising. I'm looking at the fundraising numbers. They really are, in some indicators, they're actually outpacing Republicans in preparation for 2020. What is the level of investment going to be like? I mean, like, okay, now we do hear, and I'm pleased to hear it. Like, I'm hearing very early Joe Biden ads on WURD, on Black-owned media. That's a good start because it's not just like a month out from the election. He's already started several months out. That's good. But there was a big complaint in 2016 that the DNC, the Clinton campaign, they weren't making the necessary kinds of investments in Black political consultants, Black-owned media, not just Black media that's white-owned, Black-owned media, Black newspapers, Black talk radio, like here in Pennsylvania, WRD. Is that going to be different in 2020? Is the DNC prepared, and are candidates prepared to make those kinds of big investments in Black political and Black-owned media infrastructure in 2020?
There already is a number of investments in Black-owned media, and there have been a big commitment with the DNC and the Biden campaign. You will see more of that involved. We put together a list of the Black Publishing organization. We put together a list, and there is a commitment that there will be more investment, and it's going to be starting early, and I want to track it. And if anybody who knows me, that I do track everything now starting because the chair has committed to do that, and so that's what we're looking forward to. There's going to be more involvement with African American and Brown communities in this election.
That's good. That's good. Thanks so much. We've been talking with Virgie Rollins, who's Black Caucus Chair for the Democratic National Committee. You do have your work cut out for you, Ms. Rollins, and I'm behind. I can tell you publicly. I mean, I'm behind it. I think this is a life and death election, and Democrats got to do all they can to get the current monster out of the White House. I mean, we just got to do what we got to do, and so it's going to require a lot of hard work. I know you understand this too. So I really appreciate your time and kind of helping us navigate some of these tough questions ahead of November. But I know there's a lot to do. I hope you're not a stranger, and I hope we can have you back and give us an update.
I appreciate you having us on, and thank you so much. Yeah. And anytime, just feel free. Brandon is a great person at the DNC. He's our media and our communication person. And anytime, just check with him, and we'll be happy to come on again. And thank you again for having us.
Hey, thank you. All right. Good luck to you. All right. And we'll talk again. Take care. Okay. Let's take a break. And when we come back on the other side, we'll be talking with Philadelphia City Commissioner Lisa Dealey, continuing to have this conversation about voting in 2020. We have the Philadelphia City Commissioner coming up next, and phone lines are open in case you have questions for the City Commissioner. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
If you want to start your morning with mindfulness, motivation, and inspiration, tune in to Daybreak with me, Helana, here on WURD Radio, Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 a.m. I'm a health and wellness coach with over 15 years experience helping people to transform their lives. On the show, we talk health and wellness 360, from getting your mind right to getting your money right. So let's rise and shine together right here on WURDradio.com, 96.1 FM, 900 on your AM dial on Daybreak every morning.
Always Best Care is a great place to work.
Flexibility,
leadership, purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
No fear, just facts. WURD.
Warning. If you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt, you have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-965-5269. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you can't afford to pay off all your debt, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to. Call Credit Associates for free information on how to get debt-free faster than you ever thought possible, without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We depend on your success and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk to call. For free information, call now. 1-800-965-5269. That's 1-800-965-5269. 1-800-965-5269.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM 900 AM, WordRadio.com, Word TV, Word app. Joining us now is Philadelphia City Commissioner Lisa Dealey. Go to PhiladelphiaVotes.com for more information on the Philadelphia City Commissioner's Office. Those are your, if you're living in Philadelphia proper, those are your local elections officials, local elections administrators. Go to PhiladelphiaVotes.com for more also on how they'll be administering or helping officiate the 2020 vote. Got a big election ahead of us coming up. We're already now, we're now kind of like in the final months of this, and so Lisa Dealey, of course, has got to be very busy, so I do appreciate her time here on the program on Reality Check today. Commissioner, how are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great, Charles. How are you?
All right, good. So, you know, ahead of 2020, I know you got a lot of work ahead of you. You know, I was reading with some curiosity. There was this June 25th commentary from Jen Dever and the Philadelphia Citizen, and she complains about a June 17th regularly scheduled meeting by the commissioners. It was a virtual meeting, and it turned into what she described as a prank, but it was like a 2-hour recess that took place during that live virtual meeting. And so there are questions around whether or not the city commissioner's office is really taking this high-stakes 2020 election seriously. Philadelphia is going to, a lot of eyes are going to be on Philadelphia. I mean, Pennsylvania is a battleground state. And so what's your counter to that? What's your response to people asking, is the Philadelphia City Commissioner's Office taking the 2020 election seriously?
Well, certainly, Charles. We take every election seriously. And without a doubt, this election that we're going to see in November is probably the most important election of our lifetime. And certainly we recognize that. We just ran an election in June where we had everything but the kitchen sink thrown at us, and we did not see the stories that came out of other places around the country come out of Philadelphia. So we take a lot of pride, and we work very hard to make sure that elections are run fairly and smoothly in Philadelphia. So and we will continue. The city commissioner staff has been working nonstop in person throughout this entire citywide and statewide shutdown. So, without a doubt, there is a commitment in the commissioner's office between all of us as commissioners and public servants elected by the people, and in addition to our staff, to make sure that elections continue to go on in Philadelphia in a fair, transparent, and well-administered way. So, yes, that is absolutely has been and will continue to be our commitment.
No, that's good. That's good. In light of surges of COVID-19 cases, infection rates, definitely, it seems like, you even have folks within the, a lot of city, state, federal public health officials are saying that, we're still in the first wave of coronavirus. So I'm sure that presents concerns and worries for elections officials like yourself on like how to officiate or administer election day, like in terms of like how many polling locations will be open. Have you had to recalibrate your plans for November 3rd in terms of the opening of polling locations, or how many will be open on November 3rd?
So as you know, in the primary, we were granted by some state law to consolidate the polling locations. That's why we were able to have a lesser number of polling locations, because we were in the pandemic, in the throes of it, and we were recognizing that we were going to have a shortage of poll workers throughout the Commonwealth. I don't expect, Charles, that the legislature will have any appetite to do anything legislatively like that to allow us to consolidate in November. So we are, going forward with our plan to stand up each division on its own, as we typically do. And whether or not we have less polling places, it will certainly depend on the availability to us of polling places that we typically use. We know that we are not going to be able to use some places that we have historically used, like senior centers, health centers, firehouses. So we are looking to put those into other locations, but the divisions themselves will stand up on their own on Election Day.
Got it. Are we looking at expanding the, and I think I asked you this before, I think it's still something that you're still in planning phase about, expanding those drop-off mail-in ballot boxes? Because I thought those were wonderful, but I wish we had them like all over the city. What's the plan look like for that?
Yeah, unfortunately, because those ballot drop boxes are the subject of litigation right now, I can't really comment on any of that.
I did want, that was my next question too, about that lawsuit from the Trump campaign and also the RNC. I mean, that's just going to hold things kind of indefinitely? We're just not going to know. We're just not going to know until like the end of that lawsuit, until we get some sort of reconciliation there.
Yeah, we were not allowed to comment on any pending litigation, but because of that, there's a lot of things that we we have to look at and make a plan around.
Okay. And what about the kinds of safeguards that you're putting in place to ensure that there is very minimal confusion on Election Day? That's the first big question too. Like how, because there's just sort of this anticipation of there could be a lot of confusion. It's going to take you a while to count mail-in ballots. We might not even learn of results in Philadelphia until after November 3rd, not the night of November 3rd. And so how are you planning around that?
Well, there's a couple things. We can see, we saw New York last week and New Jersey yesterday. This is a new normal, which is a high volume of mail-in voting. We are used to going to bed at night on election night and having a pretty good sense of who won and who lost. And it's a change of behavior, and people are going to have to get used to it. We have to do a better job of managing expectations. But in the commissioner's office, we recognize that we have to make some serious changes in how we count, how we prepare to count and how we count the massive number of write-in ballots that we have received. And we are doing our homework. Last week we were in Denver, and we looked at how they do their mail-in ballots.
That was good.
One of the best. They're one of the best in the nation.
They
really are a model. And then we went out to we had staff go out to Orange County. They also do a phenomenal job, and they're more on the scale of us. Denver's a little small, but we're looking at all this to find best practices throughout the country, and we are on a short time frame to get a lot of work done. So again, any insinuation that we are not working is, I don't know what even to say about that. But we are working constantly, looking at best practices and formulating our needs to get us to November, and to make sure that not only, Charles, can we count that vote in a time-efficient manner, but certainly we want to make sure it's accurate. Like I told you last week, and I've been saying to everyone, my grandmother always told me haste makes waste. So we want it to be as quick as possible, but we certainly want it to be accurate, because there's no point in coming up with the numbers fast if they're wrong.
We're talking with Philadelphia City Commissioner Lisa Dealey. Go to PhiladelphiaVotes.com, at Philly Votes on social media as well. She's joining us here on Reality Check midweek edition. Phone lines are open in case you have a question for the City Commissioner. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Commissioner, what are the dates? So in my mind, there are like 4 key dates that I think are significant or that are important for everyone to know. I mean, the first date is last date of registration or to register to vote in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia more specifically, the first date of mail-in ballot request, the first date to start submitting your mail-in ballots, and the last date to submit ballots. So do we have a real clear understanding of those important, significant milestone dates for people to participate in this election?
So first of all, it's very important that all your listeners know that they can apply today and for their mail-in ballot. That mail-in ballot application is available if they go to PhiladelphiaVotes.com. They can click on the link. It'll take them, there's a yellow button at the top. It says Vote by Mail. If they click on that, they will be able to apply online. If they can't apply online, they can print out a paper application, or they can call my office at 215-686-3460. That's 215-686-3460. And we are happy to mail out a paper application to anybody that needs one to apply for a mail-in ballot. In order to apply for a mail-in ballot, people need to be registered to vote. And so people need to be registered to vote by October the 19th. October the 19th is the last day to register to vote because in that November election.
Okay, got it. And the last day
for people to receive the ballot is November the 3rd.
Okay.
But certainly we don't want we want people to apply as soon as possible. The last day to apply for that ballot is the 27th. So if you have till the 27th to apply, if you wait till the last day, as the law allows and the dates that the state set imply, so you wait till the 27th, you apply on the 27th. Even in the best case scenario, if we get it on the 28th and we process it and get it out to you on the 29th, it's so very unlikely, based on the mail, that we are going to get your ballot back in time for your vote to count. So please, if people are listening, we want you to apply early to make sure that your voice is heard and your vote is counted on November the 3rd.
I'd probably say, just to be cautious, hey, get it in by October 15th.
I mean, look, if you apply now, you'll be in the first wave of, ballots that go out, and, it's one less thing you need to worry about.
Exactly. No, I agree with you on that. We have Rebecca out of West Philly, Commissioner, who has a question here on Reality Check. Rebecca, how are you doing? Rebecca, can you hear us?
Yes. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for calling.
A couple of questions. I voted by mail in the primary, but I didn't get a postcard until about 5 days prior to the voting to let me know that I had to go all the way over to 33rd and Diamond, which I'm used to voting right here in my building. I'm over here by Fresh Grocer. I've been voting in my building for years.
Right.
And, how do those mail-in votes get counted? One question. And my other question is, since they've closed down over half of the polling places, why can't we have voting for 2 days at least?
Commissioner?
Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for your call, and thank you for voting by mail and taking advantage of that. So a couple of things you mentioned in your call. First of all, the postcards, we mail them out late intentionally because to prevent confusion if there's any last-minute changes. And we also find that if we mail stuff out too early, people sometimes forget that they got it, or they misplaced it, or it's not as current in their mind. So we do mail a postcard to every registered voter, every household, to let them know of a polling place change. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, large buildings were not available to us for congregate settings, such as polling locations. That's why your building was not available, and the state allowed us to consolidate for that one of those reasons. We are looking at the inventory of our polling places now to see if any of those buildings will let us come back, and if not, where are we going to go? So you can expect a postcard again in November to tell you where you're going to be voting, irregardless, because everybody is going to have a different polling place because we are going to vote differently, not in a consolidation. And then the mail-in ballots are counted at the county level. They start to get counted. The legislature allows us to begin counting on election day, but we don't usually. This time we didn't start counting until a couple days after because it took us a while to inventory the poll books from the polling locations and to scan all those voters in to make sure that people who stood in line and voted in person didn't also vote by mail. So the reconciliation of the poll books took us a little time. We're working at speeding that up, but we thought it was important, as I said, to be accurate. And as far as voting for 2 days, that would require a change in the state law.
We had also Queen out of West Philly, Commissioner. Just to see if we can try to take a couple more calls. People have questions. Who's calling in for reality check questions for the city commissioner? Queen, how are you doing?
I'm good. Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Ellis and Commissioner. I have two questions. One concern. We, my family, 3 members of us, we did the mail-in ballot. My husband took them in. And later, after the election, we found out through computer, through our email, that ours did not count because it said that we did not sign our ballots. And we went through that ballot with a fine-tooth comb, and we know that we signed them. So I tried to call to have mine returned because I wanted to see where I did not sign at. So is that possible for me to get my ballot back? Number 2, I wanted to find out if once we sign a mail-in ballot, is that something that we have to stick with? Will they resend out one for November, or do we have to get back in line like we've been doing naturally? And I'll hang up and wait for your call because I would like to have a number to call into or someplace to go to get my ballot back. Thank you.
Commissioner? Thank you, Queen.
So there is no signature required on the ballot, but the declaration envelope, which is the outer envelope that people mail their ballot back in, there is a signature requirement on the outer envelope. And sometimes people feel hesitant to sign their name on that outside envelope, or they just leave it blank. And that, unfortunately, is an issue because, you have to declare that you are the voter that is submitting that vote and that paper ballot, so you need to sign the declaration envelope. So you can call our office at 215-686-3460, and we will take a look and see if we can find your deck envelopes and see what happened there. In addition, when you call, you can have them check your voter file to see if when you applied for the mail-in ballot in June, there was a question, I believe it was question number 7 on the application, that asked if you would like to also get a mail-in ballot for the November election. If you checked yes to that question, then we will automatically send you the ballot. And if you didn't, you would have to reapply. So when you call our office, we'll be able to tell you if you did, in fact, say yes to receiving a ballot in November or if you need to reapply.
Also, one last question from Lucille out of Cheltenham, who's calling in for a reality check as we talk with City Commissioner Lisa Dealey. Lucille?
Thank you so much, Charles. I'm working with a family, and they're in the zip code of 19141, and they had a problem.
That's my old zip code. That's my home zip code, but go ahead.
That's a nice zip code, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
A wonderful zip code over there near, well, anyhow, a registration form. They received one in the mail yesterday, and they can't quite know. They've already registered. Do they have to register again, or are they automatically registered to stay forever?
Commissioner?
So once you're registered to vote, unless you move or you make some other change to your name or whatever, and you want to make a change, you can. But we do know that, especially in preparation of such an important election as we're going to see in November, there'll be a lot of groups that are going to be mailing a lot of mail and information to people. It's going to be saying a lot of things. So the best thing for you to do, for the caller to do, is to call our office and verify that everybody in their household is registered before they fill out that form and send it in and create any confusion in their voter history. So call and make sure with us, or you can even check online your voter registration status at
there you go.
philadelphia.com.
And those are good guidelines to follow, Commissioner. Just if you're a voter and you live in Philadelphia, continue to go to philadelphiavotes.com, continue to call 215-686-3460. And you have a pledge from me, too, Commissioner, to constantly put this information out as much as possible, so we make sure that this is run as successfully as possible by the time we get to November. Yeah.
And thank you so much for that. Just the opportunity to be on a pretty regular basis, really. Just a wonderful opportunity to make sure that there's factual information that's being.
If you need any help with one of my very close friends is one of the architects of mail-in ballot in Colorado. He's a regular contributor on this show. He's retired state senate president out there in Colorado. But he's one of the primary architects of that mail-in ballot, that universal mail-in ballot in Colorado. So, Denver's a great place to go to because they do it very well out there. I've watched
they certainly do. Together. Very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Yeah, they do a fantastic job. So that's a good first step, going out there and talking to them. And Mayor Michael Hancock's a very close friend, old friend of mine. So that was a good first step. We've been talking with Philadelphia City Commissioner Lisa Dealey. She's been joining us here on Reality Check to talk about voting in 2020. So, Commissioner, looking forward to talking with you again. Thanks so much and good luck to you.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
All right, you do the same. Okay, let's take a break. And thanks, everyone, for calling, too. Rebecca, Queen, Lucille, really appreciate those questions. And once again, continue to go to philadelphiavotes.com, at Philly Votes on social media, 215-686-3460. You should call and encourage your friends and family to call the Philadelphia City Commissioner's office. If you are a Philadelphia voter and you have questions, don't trust any other form of information if it does not come from the Philadelphia City Commissioner's office about how to vote in 2020, how to prepare for this big day, for this big month. It's going to be a month of activity that's coming up later on in the next several months. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
In Pennsylvania, everyone counts, and everyone needs to participate in the census. Our population count determines our voice in government and how much federal funding our communities receive for health care, food assistance, education, transportation, housing, and more. So every infant and child, every foreign and U.S. citizen, everyone matters. For a stronger future, we all need to count. To learn more, go to pa.gov/census.
Support independent black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com. This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD.
And blessings, everyone. This is Leah Penniman of Soulfire Farm, and I am very excited to share with you today an excerpt from my book, Farming While Black, Soulfire Farm's Practical Guide to Liberation on the Land.
Join WURD this Thursday, July 9th for a special Black Farmers broadcast with WURD's EcoWord initiative during Reality Check with Charles Ellison. Visit ecoword.com to listen to an excerpt of Farming While Black by Leah Penniman and tune into Reality Check for our conversation with Alexandra Barlow from the Black Farmers Fund. You don't want to miss this special broadcast this Thursday, July 9th, 11 a.m., exclusively on Word Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com and Word TV via Facebook.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check, 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900. Phone lines are open, 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Thank you, Feli Coleman, for listening in through Word TV on our Facebook live stream. Feli asks, please tell me the name of the theme music for Reality Check. I'm always jamming to this intro. That is Simon Says by legendary lyricist, hip-hop lyricist Pharoah Monch. Simon Says. So it's a fantastic track. Can't play the lyrics, however, they're not family friendly. Although that track and some of the stanzas on it, the lyrical stanza on it, are some of the most legendary. Pharoah Monch's Simon Says. So and that's actually basically they blended in Godzilla theme music into like this beat, and that's what they came up with. It's one of my favorite tracks too. I'm always doing a little bit of a head bop when I listen to it, when I hear it. Also good morning to you, Mariama Ascari Porter. Good morning, and thanks for the guest and information being given daily. I appreciate you, Mariama. Thanks so much. Patricia White, listening to our earlier conversation with DNC Black Caucus Chair Virgie Rollins. Let me hear something that we can apply, like education, healthcare. Be more clear of what's on the agenda. So yeah, Democrats, DNC is going to have to do a little bit of work on that. Also, one of our listeners, Eggy Potter, people focusing too much on the VP. If the Democrats want to mobilize the youth, they need to present a black attorney general and connect that to the Black Lives Matter movement. The Democrats also need to get heavy on YouTube, TikTok, and other youth channels. That's where they listen. So that's where we need to speak. Ain't nothing going to happen without black media. Gary Bryant jumps in. Quite frankly, many people feel that they have to vote for the lesser of two evils. Has the condition of black people in America really improved dramatically under the Democratic Party? The crime bill, which is a perfect example of legislation that negatively impacted our community, but a lot of folks in our community asked for that crime bill. So, because people were just, at their wits' end at that time. So let's not forget that. People have got to guard against the tendency towards selective history when we get into a conversation about the 1994 crime bill. Joe Biden wasn't the only author of the 1994 crime bill. There's a lot of black elected officials, black political and community folks who jumped on that bandwagon at that time. I remember because I was working on the Hill at that time, so I remember some of the details of what happened when that bill was getting passed. Let me go to Gary out of Roxborough, who's calling in for a reality check. Gary?
Good morning, brother.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing?
Voice. Good. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to interject that on the voting thing, mm-hmm. I picked up 1,000 ballots, mail-in ballots from a friend of mine. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna put them at the Brown ShopRite around the city. So if anybody needs mail-in ballots,
mail-in ballots.
Yes, sir. It'll be a stack up down at the ShopRite.
Okay. Now, are you getting those from the city commissioner's office?
I am.
Okay.
Yes,
So I see what you're saying. They're like mail-in ballot requests, mail-in ballot application. Okay, got it.
Sir.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. And just as so long as that's like, I appreciate that. I appreciate that effort. We're going to try to get those out as much as possible. And people need, so that'll be at the Brown ShopRite. Where?
Yes, sir. It'll be at the old Brown ShopRite, Cheltenham, Fox Street, the one out West Philly. I know that I'm going to do those three, I know.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. I'm sure the city commissioner's office will appreciate that as well. I think that's okay. That's acceptable as long as it's, it is from the city commissioner's office. So that's yes, Gary. Thank you for that extra step. Yeah, we need to do that. We need to try to encourage people as much as possible and as early as possible to get into that mail-in ballot rhythm. So thank you for that, Gary. I appreciate that. Hey, Gary, how do you feel? I mean, you feel confident about how the commissioner's office? I mean, you heard Lisa Dealey on the phone just a few moments ago. You're seeing how they're rolling this out. You're seeing how people are getting ready and getting activated and getting mobilized for the vote in 2020. How confident are you?
I'm pretty confident that we're going to take back control and we're going to do what we need to do.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. You have a good day, too. Thanks for that work. Lamar out of Camden, New Jersey, calling in for a reality check. Lamar?
How you doing, Charles? That was even though I'm not from Pennsylvania, it was a great understanding about what the commissioner was saying. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I would disagree with her was the use of large buildings, because if Target, Walmart can have half their commissions in there for something, I'm just using that for an example. if you have larger buildings, you can put more machines in there, then people are not standing in line. You can still control the crowd, but people are not going to sit around for 13 hours to vote in a place that can only hold 5 voting machines. So I just kind of like wonder, like, those who are in charge will definitely know the working of election. We're saying this epidemic that we don't need fewer, smaller buildings, but more spaced out, larger, so that people can get in and get out and vote. So I would press upon, you know, if the commissioners and those who are involved in the ear in it, that people, us as voters, want to vote, but if you're going to go to, say, Montgomery County and they got a whole school open, you know, with 25 machines, and those folks are in and out, but you're looking at somewhere local in Philly where they got 5, you know, a district where, you know, you only have 5 machines and you got 300 people waiting to vote. That's just, again, that's another form of voter suppression. So I wish that those who are in the power to do so would think a little smarter than they're doing, because the examples show that stores can have a larger capacity. I don't know why it comes to voting. We need to have a smaller capacity. You know, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I agree with that. I mean, you know, just trying to look out or scope out for larger spaces, like, you know, a large space like the the convention center in Center City, for example, right? You know, just kind of keeping it, and so, you know, and so you can fit more, you know, more centralized and much larger spaces. You can fit more people, fit more machines, really, and keep that thing flowing, so you don't have issues like, you know, long lines, people waiting for 3, 4, 5. Even this, we are getting indications that this will be a high turnout election, and I think, yeah, you're right. People are going to have to think very creatively, and that's something that we'll channel over to the city commissioner's office while we go there. Thank you for that, Lamar. So yeah, I think you're right, and that's something, you know, sometimes and you know, it's very high stakes, it's very tense. There's a lot to do, and sometimes people miss out on big opportunities like that. You know, sometimes they're not thinking. I mean, it sounds like the city commissioner's office is very busy. They're trying to make this thing work, but, you know, at the same time, you don't want to. As is an old saying out of West Africa, you run too fast, you trip. And so, you know, we want to make sure that this thing is being done right and that they're thinking creatively and innovatively and on their feet. Thank you, Lamar, for calling in. Let me go to Maurice out of North Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Maurice?
Yes.
How you doing, sir? What's up?
I'd like to clarify some things that you spoke on about the crime bill.
Yeah.
Only 8 to 11 people sign off on that crime bill. That's politicians. When they start off on that crime bill, they got $30 million for housing and policing.
Who's that? Who are the politicians? Who are you talking about? Local, state, federal level? Who's that?
State and federal. Only 8.
Okay. Well, the crime bill had to pass through Congress. So when I was thinking about over half the Congressional Black Caucus at the time voted for the 94 crime. That's what I was talking about, Congress.
Right.
But,
talking about Congress.
Go ahead.
But Congress when they sign off on it, they got $30 million. Baltimore never received their money. Baltimore never received the money that they promised them for signing off on the crime bill. That's why Baltimore, whole East Baltimore, West Baltimore are dilapidated with housing. And they have a big sign when you're coming around City Hall, we never receive our money for the crime bill. So with that being said, we must be clear. 2 things got done that year that Biden did the crime bill and no one talked about. It was a bill done international to bring Joanne Chestermore back to America when black politicians signed a bill they never even read. And Joanne Chestermore is a shot to Shakur. They signed a bill about bringing her back from Cuba. They never read the bill. So we have black people, politicians that are signing bills, and you ask them how I know I was on Capitol Hill talking with people.
No, we have to hold them accountable.
They signed a bill blindly, but yet at the same time, we can't excuse what this guy did to 100,000 black people, including me. I'm wondering why.
That's why I'm not excusing Joe Biden. I'm just saying that, okay, first of all, I don't believe that this is a lesser of 2 evils election. I think that it's one evil that we just have to eject as soon as possible from the White House. It's full stop. It's as simple as that. Because the current evil is, I don't think Joe Biden is the type of guy who willfully conducts open pandemic level genocide on black people like the current occupant of the White House. I mean, which is exactly what is happening now. Yes, Joe Biden was extremely misguided in how he navigated and how he pushed through that 94 crime bill. But he wasn't the only one working on it. He wasn't the only one who's taking lead on it. And I don't think that that's a disqualifier. I don't think that that's a disqualifier like some other people out there think it is, because there was a whole lot of people putting pressure on him, putting pressure on Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was also pushing that through at the time. There was a whole lot of different players and stakeholders. There were some black people who were openly and publicly against it, like Reverend Sharpton was one of them, who was like, you know what, I can kind of see where this thing is headed. But there was a whole lot of black folks that asked for something to be done and asked for that crime bill and helped author it, helped put it together. So I'm just saying that it was a collaborative effort. It was wrong. It was wrong at the time, and people did not know at that time what would happen throughout the years and leading up to now. I don't think it's a disqualifier for people to tap out of this election.
Can I ask you a question, Charles?
Yeah, so that's all I'm saying, Maurice, but go ahead.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Why are all the people, the youth, is pushing against people like Al Sharpton now? Do we know why I'm taking attention to that? The youth is backlashing against our elders that's in the politics.
Yeah.
Because they know that they did unjust things to the youth.
But see, I think it's a mix of.
I'm trying to give you just what's
It's
going
not
on.
just that, but it's not just that, Maurice. It's a mix of one. I think the youth they know a bit about the history and they don't appreciate it, and that's good. I mean, you should be, but also it's the youth not really. It's a lot of youth out there really not getting the full picture of a lot of the sacrifices that a lot of, aside from that black political class, but a lot of their elders made for them to get to the point where they can do things more freely, like openly protest, or openly do some, or navigate and do some of the things that they do and organize and mobilize the way that they do. So those were sacrifices that were made by their parents and grandparents, and they don't have a full, some young folks out there, and I talk to young folks, and I'm the parent of young folks, they don't have a full grasp or understanding of that history. They don't. So I think it is a mix of, they want to hold older, like the elders accountable, some elders, not all, but some elders accountable, and that's good. But I think it's also not having a full grasp or understanding. Like some young people have this mythology in their head that the elders just turn the other cheek.
Charles,
they do, and the elders did not turn the other cheek.
Can I ask you one more question?
Go ahead.
I'll make a statement. Bill Clinton signed more bills against black America. He put more bills. This is one of the reasons why people in Pennsylvania can't get out of prison. He took away the habeas corpus. Bill Clinton did. He took away the habeas corpus that stopped people that say they find new evidence, like Terrence Lewis. That Terrence Lewis didn't have an actual innocent. He wouldn't be home today. So you have somebody that might have been in jail in the 80s that's innocent because Bill Clinton took away the habeas corpus. They can't get back in the court. They did unjustly things to black Americans.
So here's my going back to I hear you. And Bill Clinton was not my perfect president either. There's a lot of questionable things that Bill Clinton did. There was a lot of things also Bill Clinton did at that time that were some certain benefits but I didn't have any expectations, and nor should the black folks at that time, or now even like revisiting that history, have any high expectations of any of these white politicians. My mission is, in 2020, there is a monster who is conducting or officiating over pandemic-level genocide of black people. I mean, there's criminal negligence. I mean, he created the pandemic conditions. We need to get that out of there. And so, I mean, I think the revisitation is important, Maurice. I'm not diminishing it, but I'm like, at the end of the day, bottom line, mission is we need to eject Donald Trump out of the White House. I mean, it's as simple as that. And some people are using this revisitation to say, okay, well, I'm not going to vote, or I'm not voting for this particular dude. It's like, it's lesser of two evils. No, it's not. It is one evil that we need to get rid of, and we just need to be kind of unified around that. That's all I'm saying. I'm just trying to keep people mission focused. That's all. But no, thanks so much, Maurice. I got to take a break because I went over time. Let me take a break, and thanks for those questions, though. Let me take a break, and when we come back on the other side, we have Laura Copeland from the Philadelphia Water Department to talk about the city's annual water quality report. That's coming up next here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Weather and traffic to keep you informed for your drive home. In the happy hour with Sincerely Sarita. Monday through Thursday, 4 till 7 p.m. Right here on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Tune in every Saturday at 6 p.m. to Recovery Talk 101 with your host, Rick Ford, talking about addiction, treatment, and recovery. Right here on Word Radio.
JD's Auto Body and Painting is hiring talent for the following positions. Assembler, preferably 2 to 3 years experience, able to tear down and reassemble all make and model cars. Painter, must have at least 5 years overall painting experience, including experience in water-based paint and able to prep cars for paint jobs. Auto Body Technician, looking for an A or B technician, must have at least 5 years experience repairing cars. Please send your resume to JD's Auto Body and Painting at Comcast.net. That's JDS Auto Body and Painting at Comcast.net. Or call 215-848-5349 for more details. JD's Auto Body and Painting is an equal opportunity employer.
This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Independent Black Media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
Okay, we don't have Laura Copeland on yet, but we'll just keep the phone lines open until we get her. 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900. We get Anthony out of Southwest who's calling in for a reality check. Anthony, what's good?
Hi, how's it going today?
Hey, what's happening, Anthony? Good.
I wanted to talk about the black vote and my perspective on why it's up in the air and what's not being discussed. I heard you speak to the last caller, and there were several things that I heard you say that just did not resonate well with me. One, I understand that Donald Trump is a monster in the White House, and I myself did decide, once he started using the military against peaceful protesters, that, okay, the Christian fascists are really, taking control, and this is really a threat. And I do have to swallow my pride and go vote for Joe Biden. However, what I will not say is that is the only mission, and that's the only thing that's important, because I have arrived.
Just to clarify, I never said that that's the only mission. I understand that right now we got to focus on, we got to focus. I'm saying it is a major mission right now. We got to focus on getting, that is the first big step. I understand as a whole, and Anthony, to everyone's point, and even to Maurice's point, there's a whole long list, endless list of things, of grievances and problems and issues and challenges that we're going to have to tackle after that's done, after that mission is done. I want to get the Death Star blown up. That is mission one right now at this moment. And then, because right now it's at that point. We are living in the apocalypse right now. People don't understand that. And this lesser of two evils argument, I understand you've made a decision. I appreciate that. You've made a decision that, hey, you know what? I'm going to vote like I need to vote. But what happens is it encourages, I'm seeing polling numbers that are disturbing. Every other demographic group is ready to step up to the voting plate. Black folks, majority of black folks are saying they're going to vote, but there is a higher proportion of black voters saying in poll after poll, I'm not going to vote in 2020. That cannot be. That's insane. That is insane. And it's because we keep persisting or perpetuating this ridiculous conversation about, oh, it's the lesser of two evils. No, it's not lesser of two evils, folks. We got a real clear, violent evil that's in the White House right now. And, oh, don't forget the Senate. We got to take care of that business, too. That's all I'm saying.
I do get what you're saying, and I understand it, because my view, and I believe the view of Maurice, is in the minority, and you represent the popular majority position within the black community, so your view is understood. It is our view that is misunderstood and not given the proper respect to be explored. And when we attempt to tell people what our perspective is, what happens is our perspective is not responded to as a legitimate perspective. It is looked at as immature, irresponsible, egregious, and not even worthy of discussion at this point in time based on the majority view. And it's problematic. If you want us to vote, then you have to learn how to listen to us and let us share with you the details of our perspective, since those details are missing from the discussion, and your details are very present in this discussion. You are the mainstream. Yet again, we know how you feel. Do you guys care enough to to explore our feelings, or do you just want to shame us into acting through your set of priorities and your?
So I'll say this. I'll respond to that, Anthony. Which I think. So I respect where you're coming from, because you already at the outset. I'll be very frank with you, and people who know me understand that this is the truth. What you just said like a few moments ago at the outset, you were like, you know what? I am voting. I am going to be voting for Joe Biden. I'm going to be doing what I got to do. And so I'm like, okay, I respect this conversation. I respect where this brother's coming from. But people who come on here and are already starting off with, you know what, I'm tapping out. And I can tell who that is. I can tell either when they say they're going to tap out of the election or when they're already kind of presenting the case. And it's like, okay, you know what, they're not. I don't have respect for folks who, particularly black folks who are like, I'm not going to vote. Like, hell no. Like, you already didn't. It's to me, it's the conversation has already went sideways. It's like, you're not getting my respect. Now you, Anthony, out of Southwest, you got my respect, because I'm like, you know what? I can respect Anthony's point of view. I am willing to listen, because he's already just, committed to that very basic obligation. He is going to vote in 2020, and he's going to vote the way that he needs to vote to get this thing done. But there's a lot of other folks out there who are having this conversation. And yeah, I mean, you want to listen to that point of view, but it's like, I can't listen to it if people are already, especially black people who need to be out there voting in massive numbers and turnout, are saying, oh, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to participate in this franchise. Like, really? Like, no, fam. Like, that's that. Okay, well, click. Like, I don't have patience for that. And there's a lot of other people like me who don't have patience. So it's not about mainstream versus like less heard point. Because I think the lesser of two evils thing and what you're saying, I think a lot of that conversation is mainstream, and to a degree, distressingly so. So I think a lot of folks who are coming from your perspective or Maurice's perspective are shaming folks like us who are standing on a hill saying, hey, listen, people have got to just get out there and do what they got to do and vote in 2020. I think so. We kind of see it a little bit differently on that respect. I'm sorry, we got Laura Copeland on. Anthony, I got to let you go. I did like the conversation, however. Let me go to Laura Copeland with the Philadelphia Water Department, who's here to talk about the Water Department's annual water quality report. Laura, can you hear us? Thanks for your patience. Really appreciate it.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, good. Thanks so much. So talk to us about the Laura Copeland's with the Philadelphia Water Department. For more information, go to phila.gov. Is it phila.gov/water? Is that correct?
Yes.
Excellent. For more on the Water Department and what they do, what is the annual water quality report? This is an exercise that you've been doing for quite some time. What's in it specifically? What are the indicators that you all look at each year?
So we proudly present our annual water quality report every year so that we can show customers the work that's needed to achieve high-quality water to our nearly 1.6 million Philadelphians each day. Mm-hmm. It's based on data collected by our Bureau of Laboratory Services throughout 2019. Mm-hmm. And our results show that Philadelphia's drinking water meets or is better than all state and federal water quality standards.
Okay, good.
It's produced by a team of experienced scientists and engineers, and we test our water for nearly 100 compounds thousands of times each month. So it's important.
And also, where does, I don't think a lot of people understand or realize where Philadelphia water comes from. So a lot of that comes from the Schuylkill River, but there are other water sources. Can you sort of give us an overview of, like, where is their tap water coming from, or the water that they bathe in?
Sure. Philadelphia's water comes from the Delaware and Schuylkill rivers.
Do we know, or do we, because the Schuylkill and Delaware rivers, you've got, a long history and concerns about pollution. So how do you ease resident concerns about pollution in those waterways and ensuring that the water, before it gets to their faucet, it is clean, that it is safe to drink?
Right, and that's part of the reason why we produce this report. We test the water constantly. We monitor it, and we treat it to the highest of standards. Based on our results, it's better than all state and federal water quality standards. We want people to learn how we make it safe. We want them to have confidence in their water. And it's actually a federal mandate by the Environmental Protection Agency that we produce this report. So we want to make sure that we reassure our customers that they have safe, clean drinking water in the city of Philadelphia.
Was there anything markedly different in the 2019 water quality report from the 2018 report and also previous other reports? Anything that kind of stood out?
Well, basically just our initiatives. I know, this report is used to present our results from the drinking water testing and monitoring that we do each year. And Philadelphia has been doing better than all state and federal standards. So we're very proud of that. We also use the report to present any type of initiatives and to educate our customers about the importance of water, because it's very important. We're all stewards of our environment, and it's our responsibility to make sure that it remains that it's safe and that it's protected.
The other thing, you've got about 40% of Philadelphia residents admit to drinking water from bottles, and so that's a big task, a big outreach task for the Philadelphia Water Department. How are you going about reassuring people that, hey, listen, it's okay to drink from the tap? This is clean, safe water. I know there was some initiatives that you all had put together. I remember before the pandemic, there were like Philadelphia Water employees like outside different public spots like City Hall, giving people samples of actual Philadelphia tap water and, showing people, hey, this is good. See, it tastes good. What are you doing to reassure residents that, hey, it's okay to drink tap?
Right. You're absolutely right. We did have an initiative last summer, and then we had planned on doing that again this summer, but then the pandemic happened. And we found this out, by the way, because we have been, for the past 4 years, I believe, we've been sending out a survey to find out what people think about tap water, because we're interested. Right. We want people to know this water is safe. I drink the water. My family drinks the water. We all live, all of the Philadelphia Water Department employees live in Philadelphia. So we have a vested interest in making sure that it's safe.
Yeah.
So one of the things we found out, one of the main reasons is convenience. People are on the go a lot more, and they think that, picking up some bottled water might be it's convenient for them.
Yeah.
To that we say, use reusable bottles and still drink tap water, and so you can meet your convenience factor. Plastic waste is a big issue throughout the globe, and using reusable bottles and drinking tap water is a way to combat that.
Yeah. I remember the city's Office of Sustainability telling me about the Flask program. Is that something you do in conjunction with the Office of Sustainability, that Flask program, or is that something completely separate? I don't know if you know about that. If you don't, there's no worries. I'm just wondering. I just got curious about that suddenly.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular initiative. I'm not involved in that, so I couldn't speak to that.
Got it. Which kind of brings me to it, because we're also, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and, things are dicey. We want people to limit how much they're going out and about, but it's getting hot and people are going to look for cooler places. How is the water department kind of navigating all of that, or having to, pivot in terms of providing water or making sure that residents are sufficiently hydrated? Is that something that you all would play an active role in this summer? Because it's going to be a very hot Philadelphia summer. We're bracing for record levels of heat. And so what sort of role does the water department play when we have those high levels of heat?
Well, we're continuing to provide clean, safe water to the residents of Philadelphia. I know that I think there may be some units within our department that are working with the Parks and Recreation Department.
on, initiatives to beat the heat this summer.
Yeah.
And we'll probably work with them as far as putting some information online. So I'm sure that'll be upcoming. I'm not familiar with that particular initiative, but I'm sure we're working closely with them on that.
Got it. Now, with the water quality report, you're showing that Philadelphia water is indeed clean, it's safe. There was earlier in the year before the pandemic happened, there was this National Environmental Working Group report. You're probably aware of it. And they looked at the water quality in Philadelphia, and they compared it also to other major metropolitan cities. And so they found that Philadelphia drinking water was among the most contaminated of any major metropolitan area that they had tested. How do you respond to reports like that? Because there are concerns still about contaminants in Philly water. There are concerns about lead, persistent lead in Philadelphia water, particularly in Philadelphia public schools and charter schools. They're kind of over the amount of lead in water is exceeding what's allowed. So how do we address that?
So the Water Department is aware of the Environmental Working Group report, and our water quality experts did issue a statement noting the many critical problems with the basic science and transparency behind their report. And I would encourage our customers to check our website, because we did issue a statement detailing the critical problems and the lack of transparency with regard to that report. And they can view our statement on our website at www.phila.gov/water. It's right there on the right-hand side. What I can tell you is that in 2019, we began voluntarily and proactively testing for PFAS and other contaminants in the city's rivers and creeks, so that we could better understand the occurrence of those particular compounds in our city's water supply. And our sampling has not detected concentrations above the EPA's health advisory level. And furthermore, our recent results from independent studies led by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection indicate non-detectable concentrations in Philadelphia's drinking water. So we encourage our customers, read our report, go on our website. We're very transparent in how we do things, and we want our customers to understand and call us and contact us if they have any questions, because we're here to help.
All right, we've been talking with Laura Copeland. She is Public Relations Manager for the Philadelphia Water Department. She's been joining us here on Reality Check to talk about their annual water quality report. You should definitely check it out. Go to phila.gov/water to get more information on that water quality report. It is an essential read, and as the Philadelphia Water Department is saying, the water is safe to drink. So let's try to keep that plastic waste to a minimum. Laura, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me and allowing me the opportunity to talk about this important subject.
Excellent. So we hope to have you all back on and talk about some of the other initiatives too that the Water Department is carrying out. Thank you. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back on the other side, we'll be talking with Michelle Cantu of the National Association of County and City Health Officials, and we're talking about the strain of COVID-19 on local public immunization programs, just worries and concerns about that. So we're going to bring on the doctor. She's the Director of Infectious Disease and Immunizations at the National Association of County and City Health Officials, NACHO. They're going to be coming on next here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Check out the Source lineup on Word Radio. Mondays, get ready for the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. On Tuesdays, it's Andrea Lawful Sanders. Then on Wednesdays, it's the Black Women's Leadership Council. On Thursdays, it's a second helping of Andrea Lawful Sanders. And on Fridays, it's Tiffany Bacon. Don't miss the Source. Monday through Thursday, 1 p.m. till 4 p.m. and Fridays, 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. Exclusively on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Do you need health insurance for your children? The Children's Health Insurance Program, also known as CHIP, provides quality, affordable health insurance for Pennsylvania kids. CHIP ensures that kids can go to the doctor, receive health screenings and vaccines, and get what they need to live a healthy childhood. Families can be covered by CHIP no matter how much money they make. If you've experienced a recent change in employment or income, CHIP may be a good option for your family. Visit chipcoverspakids.com to apply or learn more.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
This is Word Radio, independent black media.
Are you looking for financing for your business? Well, the doors are open at New City Commercial Capital. For businesses in a position to grow, we are offering 100% financing for commercial real estate purchases. That's no down payment, no closing costs, absolutely no money out of pocket. Plus, the CARES Act will pay your mortgage payment for the first 6 months after closing. Do not procrastinate. This program ends August 1st. Give us a call today at 484-454-3592. New City Commercial Capital. Financing solutions for today's commercial customer.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
Okay, welcome back here on Reality Check. We're just waiting on our next guest, Dr. Michelle Cantu. She's Director of Infectious Disease and Immunization at the National Association of County and City Health Officials, NACCHO. Go to naccho.org for more information. They have some concerns about how much COVID-19 response is straining local health department immunization programs, particularly before the school year starts. Many families, many parents can rely on their local health department to provide them with immunizations, either directing them to where immunizations are available or plentiful, or they can even get free immunizations in some cases. So there's a lot of concerns about that throughout the country about how COVID-19 response has absorbed much of the energy, the time, and the resources of local health department immunization programs. Which is very important because you want to make sure that you don't have outbreaks of other diseases, diseases that we have managed to get under control over the years because we have immunizations. We have standard basic immunizations in place for all children, particularly for children who are going to school in a public space. We do have our guest, and she is now joining us, Dr. Michelle Cantu of NACCHO. Doctor, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm well. Thank you so much. And just to kind of let you know, I'm not a doctor, but a master in public health with a focus on infectious disease and immunization. Hi, I'm well. Thank you so much for letting me join you today.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, thanks for that clarification. I appreciate you. So you're concerned that COVID-19 has forced local health departments to pivot away from immunizations, to redirect a lot of critical resources that are typically used for immunization programs into COVID-19 response. Explain that.
Right. So our organization, NACCHO, just recently conducted an assessment looking at the impact of COVID-19 on local health department immunization programs. And what we found were that about 90% of respondents indicated that immunization programs and services have been impacted by that COVID-19 response. Many immunization program staff have vital clinical, epidemiological, and educational experience, and that has been redirected to COVID-19 response at their local health departments. And what that means is that the provision of clinical services, the education and outreach that local health departments provide, routine vaccine for children activities, school assessments, and even kind of surveillance and outbreak control efforts have been affected and impacted by this.
How did you collect this data? I think it was like a survey of different. I just want to kind of get a sense of the methodology and how you were collecting this and finding out that this was a big strain on local health departments.
Absolutely. So just a little bit about NACCHO. We are an organization dedicated to serving the nearly 3,000 local health departments across the country. And what we did was collected a sample from local health department immunization programs throughout the country for this particular data. We wanted to ask questions related to their immunization programs workforce, their funding, their coverage rates and activities and services that they were conducting during this time. So it was a bit of a smaller sample size, but it was really geared to getting that kind of information we were looking for related to local health department immunization programs.
And so, and with local immunization programs, let's talk about the different kinds of diseases or outbreaks that we're trying to prevent. I mean, talking about stressing how important these immunization programs are, because I think they've been around for so long, right, Michelle, that we've sort of taken them for granted. We're just like, oh yeah, it's my local immunization program. Oh, this is what I, use if I need to get my kid so he or she can get into school. There's no glitches there. Make sure all their health records are up to date. But these are really important, vital programs, particularly for major cities or urban centers.
Yeah, no, I absolutely appreciate you mentioning that. So, it may seem that outbreaks of vaccine-preventable diseases may be unlikely with our current stay-at-home guidance in many states. However, a lot of those have been lifted, and we anticipate that as people start to go back out and as schools start to reopen or daycare start to reopen, the introduction of some of these infections could reoccur if, in fact, vaccination has been delayed. So, if anything, what 2019 taught us were outbreaks of diseases such as measles, chickenpox, and mumps can be kept at bay if, in fact, children are vaccinated.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is that, I mean, do we find, looking at how, because you oversee the immunizations program for NACCHO, and so how has it been over the years or in recent years? I mean, have people been accessing these programs like they need to, particularly with, I think what's really concerning here too is that you have these programs being strained in a time of pandemic because, you're shifting response resources to COVID-19 at the same time while there's still this burgeoning anti-vaxxer movement, right? And which is really troubling and really dangerous because it's these are just basic things that you have to do to protect yourself, your family, and your neighbors, your community. But you've got a convergence of these two dangerous crises happening at the same time. And talk a little bit about that, about what you've been seeing in recent years in terms of immunization program participation.
Absolutely. And, what we do know is that local health departments provide nearly 90% of adult and childhood immunizations. And so their programs are incredibly vital and often serve as kind of an umbrella or even a safety net for certain communities in more rural areas. What we have seen over the last several years are these continued budget cuts and strains on staff and workforce. And even in our more recent assessment, participants indicated the continued need for funding, particularly for workforce, for programmatic funding related to these kind of vital activities that they conduct. Over the years, we have seen these consistent budget cuts, and so that has impacted, vaccination rates. Yeah. However, local health departments are incredibly committed to providing these essential services to their communities. And even through this time, they have tried to identify innovative or alternative strategies to ensuring that their communities receive or access vaccination. And I think that is really key, is ensuring that communities know how to access vaccination and when vaccination is free. So ensuring that communities understand that and know where they can go to receive these essential services is incredibly important.
What comes to mind, I wonder about this, I don't know if you have any insights on it, Michelle, is the role of the developers of vaccines, the pharmaceutical companies. And so what's that, so budgets are strained, budgets are being cut, there's not a whole lot of support from the federal level. And you've got this very highly volatile, very political anti-vaxxer movement. But, sort of what role are pharmaceutical companies playing, in terms of providing low-cost or free vaccines, for essential immunizations?
Yeah, no, I mean, I know that there is strong partnership with some of the pharmaceutical companies who are very also similarly committed to ensuring higher coverage rates for the population. I think that it's probably case by case in terms of how pharmaceutical companies are providing vaccinations that way, but I do know that they are very committed to ensuring that there is education and resources for providers regarding the vaccinations that they are providing to the public.
Are we bracing, Michelle, for new outbreaks of other diseases because of this strain on local health department immunization programs?
You know, I think that time is going to tell, but, you know, I think we are anticipating as, you know, states reopen, as people continue to go out into public, as schools reopen, people will begin to engage again, and there is a possibility for an increase in vaccine-preventable diseases. And so the message really is to try to continue to maintain any existing vaccination schedule at this time. You know, I know that it is scary for patients and for parents when we are receiving guidance about stay-at-home orders or ensuring doing our part to reduce the spread of the infection. But I do encourage folks to call their healthcare providers' offices, to call their local health departments. During this time, many of them have been offering and taking special precautions, but also offering services. And so ensuring that you continue to maintain and keep up to date vaccinations is incredibly important. And if your provider or local health department isn't providing those services at this time, really ensuring that you ask when they plan to help support the catch-up for your child or for your own vaccination. I do think that that is incredibly important at this point in time.
And you as NACCHO, I mean, there's a lot of coordination that you are involved in, that you oversee in terms of, you know, helping local and county level city health departments kind of coordinate and collaborate with each other. What's that level of collaboration like? I mean, in terms of, you know, bracing for response shortages. I mean, can different health departments from different jurisdictions kind of lean on each other?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it isn't unlikely for that to happen. Local health departments and public health in general is incredibly supportive of one another. I know that our local health departments are working in close collaboration with their states right now, as well as with CDC, as they kind of continue to prepare not only for, you know, what we're experiencing right now and kind of the reduction in vaccination levels, but what we anticipate to see in the fall as schools may reopen and the need for catch-up vaccination, but more importantly, what we anticipate seeing for the influenza season. And then more importantly, in kind of the upcoming plans for the distribution of a COVID-19 vaccine.
Yeah. You know, this is very unfortunate, too, as far as, do you think that, I am real curious about this, Michelle. Do you think that parents, that students, or that local health departments would be willing to give parents, students extensions, or school districts willing to give extensions to kids if say they are having, like I just saw an announcement that the New York City school district is going to reopen their schools. It's probably going to be a blended situation with a combination of online learning and in-class sessions, but you're still going to have kids going into buildings and classes, and they're going to need their standard immunizations. So, but do you think that because we've got like a lot of strains because of COVID-19, that school districts could be offering parents, could be offering students extensions of, you know, in terms of giving them time to get their immunizations and to get their immunizations in order in lieu of the strains, the stressors that are on these local health department programs?
Yeah, no, that is a great question. And, you know, I do believe that there are discussions about that. That probably will be a state-by-state decision in terms of what that could look like, given kind of, as you mentioned, the current constraints and you know, the emphasis needed to be able to help provide those catch-up vaccinations. So it could look different state by state. And I do know that many local health departments and state health departments are currently assessing what their plans will be for the fall.
We've been talking with Michelle Cantu. Michelle Cantu is Director of Infectious Disease and Immunization at the National Association of County and City Health Officials. Go to NACCHO.org for more information on what they do and what she's up to. She's been joining us here, as sometimes NACCHO folks do, here on Reality Check. Michelle, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
All right, you do the same. Yeah, good luck to you on that. So, folks, do keep abreast of your needed immunizations. Also, you need to check in. I'm not exactly sure what the state of, since we're, I know we have a lot of Philadelphia local viewing audience, and so people may have some concerns as they're listening into this conversation about like what the Philadelphia Health Department is doing as far as immunizations. But that is a big concern. We don't want to have like new, fresh outbreaks of other diseases on top of the pandemic that we're already in, and then those outbreaks furthering debilitating or degrading people's immune systems and making them much more vulnerable to COVID-19. That's why immunizations are extremely important. Public health officials have been putting out alerts and putting out guidelines and warnings telling people that you should get your flu shot this coming flu season. And that could help as, just an extra layer of defense for your immune system. And something to help guard against. It's not a full treatment. It's not a vaccine for COVID-19, but it can definitely help guard against COVID-19. It can help bolster your immune system, and that's definitely something that's going to be needed as we continue to be in the first wave of the pandemic. That's what health officials are saying. We're still in the first wave of the pandemic. We didn't get the first wave under control, so we're still in the first wave, and the first wave just seems to get worse. Let's open up the phone lines, and phone lines will be open after this coming break too. 215-634-8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900. 215-634-8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Phone lines are open. Feel free to call. I know we got a lot of comments where there's some debate brewing on Facebook Live, and I appreciate that. I like the debate, especially when it's friendly debate and it's smart, and people are making some important points on both sides of that debate. But some of that's happening right now, so I appreciate that on our Facebook live stream for Word TV. So in the meantime, 215-634-8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back with open phone lines.
I would like to play a little tune I just composed not so long ago.
Hey family, do you like hearing the best jazz selections aired by three of the best jazz announcers in Philadelphia? Well, tune in to 96.1 FM,
96.1 FM,
and 900 AM, WURD Radio, independent black media. For Freedom Sounds of Jazz.
Freedom Sounds of Jazz.
Hear Freedom Sounds of Jazz 10 p.m. Fridays with your hosts in rotation, Aquila, Jonathan Bay, and David Fritz. That's 10 p.m. Friday nights on WURD 96.1 FM and 900 AM, independent black media.
Always Best Care is a great place to work. Flexibility,
leadership, purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent black media.
Emerge is a public service announcement campaign produced by Mural Arts Philadelphia and sponsored by the City of Philadelphia to inspire our community to emerge resilient and hopeful in the face of COVID-19 and systemic racism.
Emerge NC. 911, it's an emergency. God, we need you, it's an urgency. Will COVID take me out? Will a policeman murder me? My skin color brown so they see me and think burglaries. I see them and think enemies. It's certainly uncertainties. From poverty, pandemics to triumph, I gained some knowledge and applied it. We can't rest when we are tired. Don't nobody have no empathy. Obstacles I overcame prepared me for the world to be. With COVID, masks are a must. I've been masked up since my surgery. Focused and showed a different me. Even through the difficulties, you could be the next to pass the test. Just emerge and see. We will emerge from coronavirus.
To learn more, go to muralarts.org/emerge. How will you emerge?
Reality Check
with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio
and WordRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check. Phone lines are open, 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900. Let me go to Diane out of Logan, calling for Reality Check. Diane?
Yes. My question is, we're talking about our children and how we want to keep them safe. But how are we keeping them safe when we have all these schools that had, before the corona-19, all these schools had asbestos in it. Yeah. Now we're talking, did they clean these 100 and something schools up? So are we opening to send our kids back to school with the asbestos in these schools and the corona? Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. I think and I didn't have a chance to see yesterday's daily press conference thing with the mayor, and I think we had the school superintendent there too. It's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that right now. I know that there were plans, right? There were promises to engage in remediation, toxic remediation of Philadelphia schools. Particularly certain schools that had been highlighted before we got into the pandemic. I mean, we were. Last winter we were having like a big conversation about that, and so I don't know what the I haven't checked, and we will check, but I haven't checked recently like what the progress is with those remediation efforts, what that's going to look like. I would suspect common sense is that the Philadelphia School District would have to step up and make sure. I mean, you even have problems, right, Ms. Diane, with like bathrooms.
Yeah.
I mean, making sure that bathrooms are stocked with paper towels and soap, because you're going to need that.
And the water fountains. Now, I volunteered.
Right.
I volunteered in school.
Yeah.
If they didn't have enough cleaning staff, they would lock the bathrooms on certain floors, and the kids would have to go to another floor to go to the bathroom. Then you see them drinking out the water fountains, and they have their mouths all over that pipe that come up.
Yeah.
I mean, this was happening before this virus.
It was. Yeah, I know.
And not all parents didn't even want to send their kids to school because of the asbestos.
Right.
Now you're talking about...
And lead. Oh, and then you got the lead issue, too, in schools. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're talking about two things that, everybody probably have forgotten about the asbestos problem because of the corona. But we need to look at both of these problems. Yeah,
we do. We do.
We're setting our kids up for sickness. Parents want schools open. I understand children do need to be in school.
Right.
But we have parents that send kids to school sick. And when you call them, you can't even get them because they switch numbers and never told the school. So these kids are in school all day. I'm saying I volunteer, and I've seen it all the time.
I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big problem. I mean, Philly was already, first of all, Philly is a very old city.
Yeah.
So you're going to have like a lot of old buildings being used. People live in old houses. I grew up in an old house. I grew up in a row house that was built in the 20s. And so, and always those concerns are always there about asbestos, about lead and other levels of toxicity. So, there's that. And so Philly's always been a sick city. And so how, we've had these problems before pandemic. How do we address all that? Ms. Diane, thanks for that question. That's something I'll follow up on. And then we'll see what's up, see what happens, and see what they say. Thank you for that. Let me let you go so I can keep the phone lines open at 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Ms. Diane raises some good points, some real good questions. Let me go to Bobby. Ms. Bobby out of Southwest calling in for a reality check. Ms. Bobby?
Hello, Sir Charles.
Hey.
I want to first, I have an issue. You're talking about the clean water in the state of Philadelphia. I'm getting ready to buy a house. I want to invest in a house, so I'm doing thorough examination of every aspect of buying this house, right? I want to give you a site. This site is the Department, DEP period, PA period, government, and this is the Commonwealth, /Commonwealth, and this talks about the Department of Environmental Services. It's written by Janice Voller. She's a water program specialist with the Bureau of Clean Water. The reason I'm citing this is because it's explaining that 26% of the state, across the state of Pennsylvania, is operated by septic tank and well water. And the point is that it's explaining all of the bacteria and contaminants that people are not aware of. I just heard one of the persons speak. I have no criticism whatsoever from that person, from the department they work. But we as people, when people present us information, you know, we have to investigate further for the wellness, not only of the children, but us as adults. If we're as adults are taking in impurities and we're contaminating our bodies, weakening our bodies, causing ourselves illnesses, how do we take care of our children? And I'm going to finalize my statement here. I agree 100% with the lady that just called. Why should we send our children, whom we love so much, into a contaminated school? Because there's a system that says by law children need to go to school. Then if they have to go to, you clean that school. You clean it as well in our community for our children as you do any other community. I don't care about the economics. I care about the wellness of the children. I thank you so much for letting me speak, and you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Bobby. You know, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's something we have to look at a little bit more closely, is the quality of water in Philadelphia, because we talk a lot about how stressed already the Philadelphia environment is. You know, Philadelphia has long had issues with air quality, with pollution. Ms. Laura Copeland from the Water Department was very much correct. Philly does have a plastic waste problem, a very big one. That problem may have been complicated even more with the pandemic and limited trash and recycling pickup schedules. So we don't know the full extent of that yet. I mean, that's something that we probably won't get a full, clear picture of until, you know, we get some more handle or control over this pandemic. And, you know, so there's just a number of issues that are just very prominent there that we have to tackle as far as the state of Philly's environment, water quality being one of them. And so, you know, the Water Department does say, you know, just on a basic level, the tap water is safe. You know, the Water Department, obviously, there are liability issues there, so the Water Department's not going to go out issues. I know that there was another report that came out last year where they were claiming that the Philadelphia Water Department, along with 32 other cities, are using faulty water tests. Or water tests that have some that have some issues or some discrepancies there. So it's something we have to think about. Let me go to Cliff out of Connecticut, who's calling in for a reality check. Cliff.
Hey, Brother Charles, listen, I totally agree with you in terms of voting and particularly how politics are local. So certainly get involved in your local politics without a doubt, and I agree with that. However, listen, Amy Goldberg, she mentioned she resigned, right, as a vice president candidate, and she specifically said that Joe Biden should pick a black woman. She said that. You know what I mean? And you and I had this discussion before. And so Joe Biden has not yet chose a VP candidate as of yet, correct?
No, we probably won't hear until August.
Okay, all right. So here's my point, and this is what I'm saying, Brother Childs, okay? And I'll just end with this, my brother. So, and hypothetically speaking, but I'm saying this to make a point in terms of our commitment and loyalty to the Democratic Party, particularly on a national level. So now there should be no reason why Joe Biden should not pick a black woman. You know, for the heck of it, I give you 3 choices. You know, 4. You know what they are: Kamala Harris, Michelle Obama, Stacey Abrams, and Keisha Lance Bottoms. Okay, there's your 4. So pick one. You know.
Are you aware of, like, I'm real curious to ask you too, Cliff. What about Val Demings? I just don't think people know that Val Demings is there. She's on that list.
Oh no, I didn't know that. Is she a black woman?
Yeah. See, that's
okay,
what I'm.
She's got 5.
She's congressman out of Florida. This is a former police chief in Orlando. She was one of the House impeachment managers. And see, I think that more. I'm putting my money on. I don't know if he will pick her, but I just get a feeling that, like, her name is prominently on that list. And
Okay,
but a lot of people don't know it. There's not a lot of name ID out there with her. But go ahead.
Right. But I'm saying I'm in with this. What I'm saying, man, is that it's only a commitment in serving. If he does this, there's only a commitment that he would be open and he would be committed to serving issues that impact the black community. That's what I'm saying. If you don't, then he is simply, I'm sorry, man, I just can't take the lesser of two evils. If he doesn't pick a black woman, I can't trust his commitment to the black community. Now,
yeah, but I still don't think that disqualifies him. And I'm not, I have to push back on this, Cliff. This whole thing of calling Trump and Biden lesser of two evils. Trump is the evil. Biden is not. Yeah, Biden is not like my perfect candidate. I never expect the perfect candidate, right? I never do in any race. All candidates are going to have flaws, but Biden's not an evil dude. What we have in the White House now, that's an evil dude. Come on, Cliff. Come on. I mean, people got to stop saying. People have to cut that out. It's like it's not a lesser of two evils election. It's not. It's just not. Like, let's stop that. Let's cut that out. I get annoyed. I'm sorry. It's nothing against you, Cliff. I just get really irritated and annoyed. It's a lesser of two evils. No, it's not. Like, we got a dude in the White House who's like, he created the pandemic. I mean, he's just like, black folks dying left and right. And then we got, on top of all the other issues, the world kind of flaming. He just signed off. He just submitted a letter to the UN withdrawing us out of the World Health Organization. Who does that? Who does that? Okay. That's pure, unadulterated evil. Joe Biden is not that kind of dude. He's not like that. He's flawed. He's not perfect, and he's made like some questionable decisions along the way, and he's made some fairly decent policy along the way. I mean, he's definitely not. He wouldn't have been my original choice, but he's not evil. This is not a lesser of two evils election, and people need to just accept that, understand that. Go ahead, real quick.
Okay, Cliff, I only understand with this. The point I'm making is that this is the litmus test. Why wouldn't he pick a black woman? And then you can
I hear you.
But to say that white liberals and white liberal women and white so-called Democrats won't vote for a black person, then you're just as racist as white Republicans. And this is my last point, man. And I'm saying hypothetically, if in fact Joe Biden were to pick David Duke as his running mate, black folks would still support Biden.
But that's not going to happen, though, Cliff.
I'll end with that.
That's hyperbole. Joe Biden's not going to pick David Duke, and it's not going to be a situation like that. I'm not going to do like hyperbolic scenarios, like silly cartoonish scenarios. If he picked David Duke, I don't think that would be the case. First of all,
if he picked David Duke, would you vote for Joe Biden if he selected David Duke?
No, I wouldn't. First of all, I don't think that's going to happen. No, I probably.
No, but just answer the question.
No, I'm not answering that question because it's silly. I'm not answering it. It's silly. It's straight up silly.
Just entertain me.
I'm like, it is. I'm not even going to entertain it. No, I'm not. I'm not going to entertain or get back. It's a silly question. I'm just saying. But Cliff, I will tell you this before I move on real quick. But I will say this. I do think that Joe Biden is now. He does have to pick a black woman. I feel like he's kind of back into that.
Are you agreeing with that?
Yeah. No, I think he's at that stage now. I think at one point he probably was not going to pick a black woman. I think now he's going to have to pick a black woman. He's going to have to pick a black woman. If he doesn't, I still think people need to vote for him. I still think you need to get you need to get the penalty
if he doesn't.
What's that?
Whole point. There's no repercussion, no penalty if he doesn't pick a black woman. That's my whole point.
Oh no, there's ways to inflict political repercussions, but that's no reason to disqualify him and not to vote for him. I mean, because Elizabeth Warren's name keeps coming up, so I mean, there's a possibility he might pick Elizabeth Warren to be his running mate. I mean, her name keeps coming up. I just don't. I think that he is. I think he understands. He understands like the moment, his team, and he understands the moment that's going through. But I'm not going to not vote for, or I'm not going to encourage people not to vote for Joe Biden just because he didn't pick a black woman for running mate. I think it's not about the running mate anyway. It's about a number of other things. Let me go to Mamie out of University City, who's calling in for a reality check. Mamie?
Good afternoon, Brother Charles Ellison.
Hey.
Listen,
how you doing?
That was a little falderall that you had to put up with, and I really appreciate
That's Cliff. That's Cliff. I love Cliff, though, but go ahead.
CC. I'm going to call him CC. But anyway, dear, you know why I called today? I was very distressed. I went out. They were collecting the trash in my neighborhood and recycling. And those young people out there didn't have on any masks. One of them had his down around his beard, and I said, "Where's your mask?" And he pointed to the. I said, "Put your mask on."
Right.
And the other one didn't even have one.
Yeah.
You know what? They need to defog this city after each trash collection. Some kind of way. They got to get some kind of machine or something. I mean, because it's not right. No wonder everybody's coming up with this virus.
Yeah.
Because there's no protection. Charles, the trash is out there, and it's not covered usually, because if you put the cover on it, they may throw your cover away. So you put it out there open. They don't want you to use plastic bags. I mean, I'm not, trying to make a issue out of something that's so minute, but it's our lives. You know, and I don't know. I just think our people need to start using their intelligence and stop listening to, don't follow the crowd. Be your own person. It is so very simple. It's common sense. But then the young people say to you, your common sense is not the same as mine.
Yeah, it's just, people being stupid. Yeah. I am not going to be placating or cuddling folks who are and saying, oh, well, they just have a different point of view. It's just basic public health protection. Just folks, wear your mask. Wear your mask. Stop being contrarian or being cute or coming up with some kind of clever retort to to my sister here, to Ms. Mamie out of University City. She's concerned about her health and safety and about everyone else around her and her kids. And we see the numbers spiking up, and people still want to be hard-headed and have fun and just say little, stupid, little plucky, cute retorts, just to show that they're being different. You're not being different. You're being dangerous. So just follow the basic advice, y'all. This is not complicated. It's not rocket science. It shouldn't be controversial. Wear your mask. The citizen, the science around this is very basic. It's established. The masks do help. And the physical distancing as well helps too, but the mask is a big component of that. All right, let's take a break. Thank you, Ms. Mamie, for calling. Thank you for sharing that too. And folks out there, listen to Ms. Mamie. No, seriously, Ms. Mamie she's right, and she's looking out for y'all. So listen to Ms. Mamie and everyone else out there like her who's looking out for everyone's health and safety. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, on the other side, we'll be talking with Tom Koenig, guest columnist for the Philadelphia Citizen. We're going to be talking about statues and monuments and this big moment that we're in history. Let's just take a break, and then we'll come back for our weekly Citizen segment here on Reality Check on WURD.
So you just finished binge watching that entire TV series? Now it's time to binge listen at WordRadio.com. Check out our archives of WURD on demand and listen to some of the most memorable moments from your favorite hosts. Word Radio on demand. Check it out right now at WordRadio.com/podcasts.
The Fresh Grocer of Monument Road now has even more to offer their customers. This Fresh Grocer location now has online shopping, so you can skip the hassle of going into the store. With convenient options of delivery right to your door or curbside pickup, they will do the shopping for you. You can get started at thefreshgrocer.com or by downloading the Fresh Grocer app on your mobile device.
Want the latest in Word swag? Check out the shop tab on WordRadio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WordRadio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk Media.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy. Come on out and become a Word Radio member one by one. Renew your membership or get a new one. Get serious information and have some fun. Call 215-425-7875. That's 215-425-7875. Come on out and become a Word Radio member one by one. Renew your membership or get a new one. Get serious information and have some fun.
home of the happy hour. With Sincerely Sarita, this is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Streaming live at WURDRadio.com and on the WURD Radio app. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to the Reality Check here on the home of Black Talk Media, none other than WURD. And we have our weekly citizen segment. We do this in conjunction with the Philadelphia Citizen. Go to philadelphiacitizen.org. The last, in fact, we try to get a weekly column going, weekly reality check column going in the Philadelphia Citizen. The last one was cracking the youth voter code. So, we'll continue to have that conversation about how do you truly turn out youth voters, how do you get them involved in civic participation and in elections. So that's always an ongoing conversation. But in the meantime, for our weekly citizen segment, we're talking with Thomas Koenig. He's a Princeton graduate and also a guest contributor to the Philadelphia Citizen. His latest piece, his latest guest commentary is on Rizzo, Columbus, and the Confederacy. As the statues fall, a Princeton grad and local resident warns that honestly confronting our past helps us reckon with the present. Thomas, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, Charles. Thanks so much for having me on. Doing well.
Excellent, excellent. All right, thanks for coming on. Thanks for this this piece. It's a rather controversial piece, but it's definitely some important issues we need to talk about. What, in your mind, why should we be careful about removing so many statues and monuments? So let's just sort of get the top line argument out of the way first.
Yeah, sure. So what it fits in is right now our politics and our political debates are always being framed as A or B issues or either or choices, binary choices. And I reject that, right? Because we're a complex society, we have a complex history, and we need some kind of critical, nuanced thinking about these issues, right?
Yeah.
So I think the Confederates should be the exception, not the rule. To tear down people who were traitors to the United States of America and who were traitors in the name of preserving a slave society in the American South. I'm all for that. I don't think that really should be up for debate. I think we should take them down lawfully, but that's a no-brainer in my opinion. But that said, if we start kind of taking down every historical actor who was an imperfect moral actor, like people like Frank Rizzo, Christopher Columbus, these were not saints, but they're also key parts of our history as a city and as a nation, right? So my kind of pitch was instead of tearing these people down, still keep them up, but pair them with folks like Cecil B. Moore, Absalom Jones, Richard B. Allen, Robert Purvis, people who are on the other side of some of these debates and who are key parts of American history and Philadelphia's history, so we can have a more open, honest grappling with our past, because honestly, the more we understand where we've come from, the more likely our chances are of being able to progress here in the present and to confront our current challenges, which are many. And
thank you for clarifying that too, because I remember when I read the column when you were talking about Confederate statues as like the removing them as should be an exception. Right? I may have misread it, but I'm glad you clarified that. It was the way it was structured. It made it seem like, okay, hey, I'm against Confederate statues, like they're like insanely immoral, but hey, it should be the exception and not a rule to take them down. And but I see what you're saying. You're like, no, this is something we should do. Okay, so in the statues debate, but there's sort of an assumption there in your argument, Tom, that like all sides are equal, like the folks who are the detractors, the statue detractors, the aggrieved segments of the population, they are people who are on an equal footing with the people who erected the statues in the first place or who support keeping the statues there. And that's absolutely just not the case, right? I mean, that makes that a lot more complicated. How do we reconcile that?
Sure. So let's just take one for example, right? So let's talk about someone like Christopher Columbus. And this isn't to say that, he's equal in his morality to the indigenous people that he raped, murdered, and brutalized, right? That's not what I'm saying. Instead, I'm trying to take a long-term historical view of how all this went down. So I think as a historical matter, as a factual matter, it's hard to contend with the fact that Christopher Columbus is a key part of American history, right? And part of American history, of course, slavery, brutalization, and the takings of lands of indigenous peoples, you name it, there have been so many sins, so many injustices. But another part of American history that Columbus gives rise to is, say, the making of the United States of America as this independent country grounded in principles like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And without Columbus, I don't know whether we get something like the Declaration of Independence, which is a political document that was the first of its kind, right, that took these principles of human rights that had previously always been relegated to the sphere of religion and philosophy, and it took those principles and placed them right at the heart of a political order. And the fact of the matter is, like, part of that history, part of getting there and having those tools in the toolbox to confront and combat things like racism and racial disparities, you don't get there without Christopher Columbus. And that's a contradiction, right? Because he was, not an upholder of human rights. So this isn't to equate Columbus with the people he brutalized. It's not. I'm trying to say that Columbus is part of the story, and to honor him as part of that story, I think, is a worthwhile task, while also giving voice to the people who are also part of the story that right now aren't getting their place.
But isn't that like believing that Columbus discovered America in the first place? I mean, it wasn't that he wasn't the first person to discover America. I mean, it was Leif Erikson, right? Who,
Yeah,
well, that's if you go with the contemporary, sort of Eurocentric take on history. I mean, there's evidence that, first of all, we had indigenous peoples who were already here, and then there's evidence to suggest that other non-European populations discovered the Americas or explored the Americas before even Europeans knew it was there. So I'm still, I know that people are going to have trouble with that. I'm having trouble grappling with that whole concept or notion of honoring Columbus, because there's that other piece of it, right, Tom? I mean, the victors are writing history here. We don't even know if half this history about these European explorers and the founding fathers, it's not completely accurate or holistic in the first place.
Yeah, I guess it's still more complex, though, when you think about, sure, Leif Erikson was the first, but if you do adopt the fact that, Columbus is the first European to come over and discover the New World, the fact of the matter is that the United States Constitution, the United States, the polity under which we still live, right, the United States of America is a product of European colonization. We can't dispute that. So, of course, Columbus is more core to our story than someone like Leif Erikson. I think that's, who was here first. That's not necessarily the question. The question is who is kind of the one in our line of secession, so to speak. He's kind of one of the first authors of the American chapter. The American chapter being this chapter that was written by a lot of British folks, a lot of European folks, who then became Americans with the Revolutionary War, and didn't even kind of double down on their shared Americanness until after the Civil War, when we finally,
but going back to that question of Columbus, because I think, Columbus, I see your point in the sense that we do need to we need this reckoning. We do need to have a conversation that gives us all complete, accurate histories. They're not histories based off politics, and they're not histories based off the dominance of one particular group throughout history over other peoples. And that's how a lot of this history is written in the first place. But to honor Columbus or honor someone like Columbus, I mean, okay, maybe learning more about him, but I don't know that we need to do like statues or to persist with statues to honor him. Maybe we need to make sure that we learn about him so that people like him are not committing the same sorts of atrocities and mistakes in the future. That's a pretty heavy, pretty loaded word to say honor Columbus.
Yeah, I think that's a fair debate to have. Actually, so I was lucky to attend St. Joe's Prep for high school, and a teacher there, Dino Pinto, had a piece in the Philly Inquirer this past weekend talking about, he's an Italian American, I'm not, but he talks about how Italian Americans shouldn't rally around Columbus. There are other Italian Americans that they can honor instead. And I think that's a fair argument. I think that's a very fair argument. But I guess my first thought when confronted with that argument is that it sounds weird to honor these people who are imperfect moral actors, but two things. When we're judging the morality of people, I feel like we have to judge them by the standards of what came before them and the times under which they lived, and not today's moral standards. I think that can be somewhat anachronistic because, slavery is, and, the raping and brutalization of those whom you conquer, that's an ancient institution. And, there's a reason that the first anti-slavery organization in the history of the world was started in Philadelphia in 1775, and with the likes of Ben Franklin. And you can't get there without Columbus. You can't get there without the European infiltration into the New World. Was destruction and pain and death wrought by that? Yeah, it totally was, and we have to give voice to that, and we have to honor those who are on the other side and make them whole.
I see. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I said, you can't. Yeah, we need that full understanding of how. Like, let's just be straight up about like how atrocious and how terrible and genocidal this history is, and understand that Columbus was complicit in it. I think where people have a problem is, but then that gets into a bigger discussion about where people have a problem, and I understand that. Do we need statues for a dude like this, right? So we can learn about people like Columbus. It's like, I can learn all day about people like Pol Pot in Cambodia, about Hitler in Germany, about, the Al-Qaeda, Islamic State, Saddam Hussein. I can learn about these people all day. I don't necessarily need statues in public spaces and Germany has made that decision with, not displaying Nazi symbols or Nazi statues. Like, it's illegal to do that. It's something that it's a part of their history. So it's like, why should we be doing that? Can't we just learn about these people without having these statues constantly visibly in our face all the time, reminding us? I think, isn't there a way to kind of learn it, to keep that in the curriculum? Because I think you're right. It is important to learn. We need to learn about everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Do we need statues to do it? I think that's the big point.
So I think I definitely agree with you that we need it in the classroom. We need it in the curriculum. Like, that's step one, right? But I would also say, in defense of having the sorts of statues, I don't know if the German approach works that well, right? Because there was a recent piece, I think it was in the New York Times, about these neo-Nazis infiltrating the German military, was it, or the police force? I didn't read it in depth, but maybe that's a point.
The special forces and the police force, they say have a big problem.
So that they're still grappling with that, although they erased it from their public space. And the second point is just the fact that we're having this conversation, I feel like is a point in favor of having these statues. Because what they are means of making people grapple with the past. And, I've been talking to some friends, and, they mentioned Rizzo. They were like, why should a little black girl have to walk by a statue of Frank Rizzo on her way to school? And I think that's a fair question. But my response instantly was, she's already walking by Frank Rizzo, and she has to know that. In that, these actors have immense impact on the present day and the city and the state and the nation in which we live, right? And I think we should honor some of the positive aspects of them, but even if you don't want to use the word honor, to have to confront them in the public space, I think it serves a civic function. Because there's this quote I mentioned in the article from this historian named Arthur Schlesinger Jr. He was part of the Kennedy administration back in the day. But he says, history is to the nation as memory is to the individual. And I think that's spot on. And like, if we have ways of supplementing our historical consciousness and our ability to understand where we've come from, we'll get a way better sense of who we are and where we need to go and where we're going.
Which is it's a good point, in terms of, at the end of the day, I mean, we are like this one nation, and we've got to, but it's, multiple perspectives and multiple cultures, and we got to learn how to coexist. Even if at times we're not going to like each other while we do it. But then that goes back to that other conversation. I mean, I wonder, so, you talk to black people about the Rizzo statue in Philly, very controversial, and they're telling you, hey, why should a little black girl have to walk past the Rizzo statue? I mean, I wonder if you've talked to, indigenous folks, about the Columbus statue and how they feel about it. And someone on Facebook Live actually makes a good point, and we should follow up at some point with a conversation with someone in the indigenous community. How do they feel about Christopher Columbus? Because that's a lot of this too, is about who's been responsible for or who's dominated the writing of history over the year, American history, because there's just so much complexity to it. There's so much going on. It's not just one American history. It's a tapestry of histories, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and all of those. But we've had like this one, it's been white people primarily who've been dominating the writing of it. And that's a problem. That's something that we're going to have to tackle with. We should have, like, we just had a Black history professor on yesterday who was saying that, we need mandatory universal Black history curriculum, so everyone understands that about about all the histories, about not just their pain and suffering, but who these civilizations were before they even got here to America in the first place.
Yeah, for sure, and I think that will help. That will lead to more nuance and nuanced thinking about these issues, because even you talk about the white domination of historiography, and that's true, but still we're still a pretty historically illiterate people. Like if you look at surveys, like Americans don't know much of their history, and as the field becomes more diverse, of course that's going to be a good thing because it's going to give us a fuller picture of that history. But at the same time, I would just add, there are historians. I know Harvard's Jill Lepore is really good with this, talking about it's good, that the history writing profession and the public debates we're having about history are incorporating more than just the white male voice into them, right? And talking more about what has happened from different perspectives and different emphases. But at the same time, we always have to try to be forging as common a narrative as possible, because at the end of the day, we're all here. We're all in this space. We got to hang together, and we got to, progress as one going forward. And history is a key means of doing that. And that's I'm all for. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Thomas, I want to challenge you on this too. I mean, what do you think is the standard of writing history or teaching that history, the historiography as you call it, right? What's the standard? Because, I know you graduated, fantastic institution, Princeton, right? You mentioned a Harvard historian, but it's you need those other perspectives, not just racial perspectives or cultural perspectives, but even academic. Like I know a lot of fantastic, talented teachers or historians coming out of historically Black colleges and universities. So I think that's a big part of the problem too, is just sort of this assumption that the standard for historiography has to come out of an elite. And that's not knocking your alma mater, because it's a great spot. I've been there a couple of times, right? And I've lectured there a couple of times. But that's not to knock them. But I'm just thinking that we need to appreciate, it's the same thing with the Supreme Court, right? Like, why does everyone on the Supreme Court have to be from an Ivy League school? It's the same thing with history telling or storytelling. Why do they always have to be from the same institutions in order to set the standard for how these stories are told?
Yeah, no, not at all. But I would say that, much of history writing, and now I'm really far afield from, I'm no expert, but from my study of it and some of the great professors I had at Princeton, people like Sean Wilentz, who was had a huge impact on me. Much of history writing is a matter of where you're putting your emphasis. Because I think, of course, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. That's a fact. The other fact is that he held, 600 slaves, had forced sexual relations with some of those slaves, didn't free many of his slaves when he died. That's also a fact. And the question is, where are we going, going forward? Where do you put the emphasis? My feeling is that, try to do your best to tell the entire story and let people debate that in the public square, on social media, you name it, instead of just drilling down on one aspect of a country's history, on one aspect of a person. And that's another reason for having more of these public displays of history that have a lot of different figures featured.
But Tom, but think about it though. I mean, a lot of these public displays though are put up there not just to celebrate one cultural group over another, but it's also they're used as images, like with the Confederate statues. They're used as visuals of intimidation to intimidate. Like I would say, I would argue Rizzo's statue, that was one of the purposes of that. Like Confederate statues this is a reminder to put black folks in their place. So I mean that's that other thing is that these statues are in a lot of cases and instances are being used, whether it's black people or indigenous people or whomever, they're being used as forms of visual violence. I mean, how do we account for that? I mean, that's something that you've got to take into account when you're thinking about this, when you're unpacking this.
Oh, for sure. And again, I think it depends on the statute. So you mentioned the Confederate statues. My understanding is that the vast majority of those statues were erected following the end of Reconstruction. They're part of this lost causism that recasts the Confederacy as this benign revolution for local democracy or something, when in reality it was a fight for slaveocracy. So, like, I think that's an obvious example of what you're touching on there. But part of my point in the article is that it's not always so simple. And based off my reading of the history of the Rizzo statue, is that there's a reason they put it in front of the Municipal Services building, right? Because Rizzo was kind of known for that interpersonal constituent services, like the old lady calls, and he personally responds to her call. Now, another side of Frank Rizzo was... That
might be part of the story. I think the other part of it, too, is the FOP using it as a visual intimidation tool. Like to say, hey, we're in charge here, and we need to keep you guys in your place.
Right. But I guess my thought about the article, maybe I'm wrong, but something I was thinking is that it becomes much harder for the FOP to gather around the Rizzo statue as, like you say, a tool for intimidation, when right next to it is a towering statue of Cecil B. Moore. Because when we do that, we're recreating, Rizzo and the cops were on one side of the barrier in front of Girard College. Cecil B. Moore was on the other side.
And I feel like there's like part, and I got to let you go in a minute, but I feel like there's a part two to that discussion, because it's like, I don't know if I would be for Rizzo being next to Cecil B. Moore and then having them on sort of an equal footing. Once again, it goes back to that earlier conversation. Like, we're assuming that that this is an equal size debate, that everyone's on equal. They're not. I mean, Cecil B. Moore was not on an equal footing as Frank Rizzo. And, black folks who are understandably so, disturbed by these statues, or indigenous folks who are, we've been in a vulnerable position. We've been like the underdogs for several hundred years compared to these white people who are getting these statues and the white people who put those statues in place. You see what I'm saying? Like, I have a hard time sort of accepting that we're on equal footing on this debate. It's been several hundred years of one side of the debate being the dominant voice and using their voice as power. And overpowering us when we have concerns about how this history is written and how this history is displayed. But real quick, I'll let you finish up, Tom.
Well, I was just, by one point, and I'm not, going to dispute everything you said there, but one thing to grapple with is the fact that, we're having this conversation. It's just a point in favor of having the statues to begin with. Because the more we have conversations like this, whether I convinced you or you think I'm crazy, the better we are all off as Americans. And that's just, I think that can't necessarily be disputed. But the more we're able to talk about this stuff and to have good faith conversations like this, we're in a way better spot than we were at the start. You know what I mean? So I think it's an ongoing conversation, and it's just a point in favor of having a drawn-out, deliberative process about this stuff, as opposed to quick, middle-of-the-night sorts of decisions, whether it means tearing down a statue or putting one up. I think it has to be the product of long conversations like this one.
Yeah, no, I continue that conversation for sure. Check out Thomas Koenig's column. He's a guest contributor to the Philadelphia Citizen. We hold our Philadelphia Citizen segment each week on Rizzo, Columbus, and the Confederacy. It's an interesting read. It's an intriguing read. Go to philadelphiacitizen.org for more there, and we'll continue this debate. Maybe at some point in time we'll have you back. Thanks so much, man.
That sounds great. Yeah, thanks so much, Charles.
All right, take care. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back on, okay, we were supposed to have Heather Hiles, but we don't have Heather Hiles, or do we? Okay, no, I think we did have Heather Hiles, and then we don't have Heather Hiles. I think we're probably going to have open phone lines coming up. I think that she had a last-minute crisis that she had to attend to, so we're going to go ahead and open up phone lines at 215-634 8065. Yes, we don't have Heather Hiles today. I just found out, so I'm just like multitasking here, but that's okay. She has to take care of some things. There's some urgent business on her end, so she does apologize. 215-634-8065. toll free 866-361-0900, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Check out the Source lineup on Word Radio. Mondays, get ready for the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. On Tuesdays, it's Andrea Lawful Sanders. Then on Wednesdays, it's the Black Women's Leadership Council. On Thursdays, it's a second helping of Andrea Lawful Sanders. And on Fridays, it's Tiffany Bacon. Don't miss the Source. Monday through Thursday, 1 p.m. till 4 p.m. and Fridays, 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. Exclusively on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time Shiro to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. Start saving more for retirement now, so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
A message brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
No fear, just facts. This is WURD, independent Black media.
And blessings, everyone. This is Leah Penniman of Soulfire Farm, and I am very excited to share with you today an excerpt from my book, Farming While Black, Soulfire Farm's Practical Guide to Liberation on the Land.
Join WURD this Thursday, July 9th for a special Black Farmers broadcast with WURD's EcoWord initiative during Reality Check with Charles Ellison. Visit ecoword.com to listen to an excerpt of Farming While Black by Leah Penniman and tune into Reality Check for our conversation with Alexandra Barlow from the Black Farmers Fund. You don't want to miss this special broadcast this Thursday, July 9th, 11 a.m., exclusively on Word Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com and Word TV via Facebook.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and reopen the phone lines at 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900. We have to pass on our livelihood segment with Heather Hiles, so she is involved in the current crisis. You do have the Trump administration, the Trump White House, pushing, as of yesterday, making announcements, particularly through Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos, to reopen schools. She's basically setting an ultimatum. President Trump himself setting an ultimatum for cities and states to open their schools, to do a full reopening of schools in the fall. And so Heather Hiles, in some way or another, based on a lot of the work that she does, is involved in that effort, that counter effort, because there's a lot of concern, a lot of worry about that, understandably so, a lot of public health concerns, and some mental health concerns with respect to students returning in the fall. So, but it's not just President Trump now and Betsy DeVos that are pushing this. I hear a lot of parents complaining every day, being put in a difficult position with schools being closed, and I don't think that's one of those quiet crises that we don't talk about enough about. Still, parents still have to do, and some parents who can't afford to, still having their kids at home. So, on one hand, there's this open public criticism of, and warranted open public criticism of Donald Trump and the Trump administration for, pushing folks to reopen schools, while we're still in the middle of the pandemic and while COVID-19 infection rates are rising, and children in particular are like petri dishes of, or petri dish carriers of infectious diseases all the time, right? And things, even basic things like colds and flu and other bacteria. But, I hear I hear this all the time, and you hear it, and some of you probably even partake in that conversation, the stress of having to have been holed up in home for several months with the kids who are not going to school, trying to also, make adjustments in your home life to make it in terms of the online learning thing, which is completely new to a lot of people. So, and the administration is hearing some of that, some of that from a lot of parents out there who are like, like on the, may not be as vocal, may not have like those prominent soapboxes like public activists or advocates or elected leaders, but who are complaining about like, okay, well, what are we going to do as far as like returning, and it's people, just sort of being trapped in the middle here between two sides of this coin. On one hand, they don't want the kids to go back to school because they don't want them to catch any infectious disease like COVID-19 and bring it back home. But on the other hand, they're stressed out. People are stressed out. And particularly from having like their small kids or small children or the teenagers at home. And, and that can become a problem, just like one of those basic standard household problems of idle, non-active young people, who, aren't plugging into activities. And so, I've even had to be creative with my 15-year-old in our household, making sure that, she's kept, kind of on her A game and she's kept like active. You got to figure out creative ways. But some of us have more resources to do that, or have more time or have more flexibility to do that than others. And we have to be aware and cognizant of that. And so it's a tough situation that everyone is in. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. We had a lot of conversation here, particularly in our conversation about statues that we just had with Thomas Koenig, who's a contributor at the Philadelphia Citizen. So, he was recommended to us. Philadelphia Citizen, very, very controversial column. I do agree. In Philadelphia Citizen, we want to have that conversation with him to sort of unpack that and see what he's saying. So this is not an equal sides perspective. I mean, I think that's one thing that has to be said here. We have to sort of push back on this assumption that this is an equal sides debate, that like, we're all on equal footing or on equal planes when we're on opposite sides of this conversation. We have folks over here who want a lot of these statues down, who have been in a vulnerable position, who have been in an oppressed position for hundreds of years, and they're tired. We're all tired. And so, and they want this reckoning, and they want revisitation of these statues. And frankly, I'm like a hard line on that. Confederate statues, take them down. Take them all down. Take every last Confederate statue down. But there is conversation from a lot of folks about, okay, well, when do we stop? So like, do we draw the line somewhere with statues and monuments and other visual representations of these very like questionable historic figures? Like what's the standard, what's the criteria for considering taking them down in the first place? I see you. I know some folks. I have one brother here, Tony Holland. So the white boy gets to speak about his perspective without being shamed and shut down. Yet when the brother calls to discuss withholding his vote, he gets shut down and isn't worthy of respect. Shaking my head. Well, no, I mean, the guy that we just talked to, he was a scheduled guest for the show. So, and he got 20 minutes of a segment because he's a guest contributor to the Philadelphia Citizen. And we're sometimes going to bring folks on who we disagree with for scheduled segments of the show. So it wasn't like a white boy versus a brother who called in. Much respect to the listeners and much respect to the brother all the brothers who called in, or all the folks who called in with that, with that argument about holding their vote. I don't have a lot of patience. People know this, and I've been very upfront about this on this program for years. I do not have patience. I have zero tolerance for folks who are espousing non-votes. I have zero tolerance for it. If that's one thing you want to know about me. So first of all, the person who called in, they were caller, they were listener, it wasn't part of a planned segment. And yeah, if you're going to come on here and you're going to talk about not voting, you will get shut down. That's just full stop. You will. This is a zero tolerance zone for the non-voting argument. I'm just first of all, a lot of people, ancestors, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, got brutally beaten. Folks got murdered, folks got lynched, all kinds of atrocities happened to people. Just something simple they wanted to do, a franchise they wanted to exercise to vote. And it's just complete disrespect for people who are talking about like they're going to hold votes or they're going to non-vote or not get registered to vote, or who don't have a grasp of that history. So that's one. And I think that's very relevant in a conversation like this. So secondly, black folks should be this election is the most high-stakes election for the black electorate. You know, if it's any electorate or demographic that has the most to gain or the most to lose from an election, it's us. So the last thing we should be talking about or espousing or putting out there in public is not voting. And I just have zero tolerance for it. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. Let me go to Bob. That's just how it is from me and on this program. So if you're going to come on this program and talk about not voting, be prepared to feel the fury. Like, I'm just putting that out there. Be prepared to feel it, because you will. That is one thing. That is the one thing I have zero tolerance for. I'm sorry. Let me go to Bob out of West Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Bob?
Yeah, I just really want to thank you for eloquently and calmly speaking to that young person who really thinks they know what they're talking about but has no clue. The guest that you had talking about, we need to have these statues up to as a reminder and as conversation, and you need to respect the moral standards of the time, or remember the moral standards of the time that these things were put up. Well, the moral standards of this time is they need to come down.
Yeah.
A lot of
right. That's a good point.
That's the moral standard of today. You live in the moral standards of yesterday, where Princeton means something more than it should. When Ivy League meant something. Ivy not being IVY, IV meaning four universities that gentle people went to, that, and that's why he went to Princeton, for the name and the prestige of going there. Well, that name and prestige wasn't allowed to a lot of other people. And we happen to be in the group of, that's a lot of those other people. And we're just as smarter, so on and so forth. And,
I think that's what Michelle Obama said too when she went to Princeton. She was like, "I went to Princeton. I just watched the documentary the other day, Becoming, and she was like, I went to Princeton. I was a little nervous because everyone's talking about how smart everyone is there at Princeton, and I get there, I get in the classroom, and these people ain't all that smart." So it was a pretty funny moment in her reflecting one, because she went to Princeton undergraduate, and she was like, the people that went there to Princeton, everybody, all those years people telling her she can't go to Princeton because she may not be smart enough, and she ends up being the smartest person in the room. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, the statues of Benedict Arnold have all been taken down. No one had to say anything about those statues being taken down. He was against he was for the United States government, then against. He was considered an enemy. He had plenty of statues. All those statues were taken down because he was not for the United States. Those Confederate statues that were put up as a reminder to those people in those areas, because notice they were down mostly in the lower states where they wanted to keep the status quo. They were used as intimidation, just like a Confederate flag in the back of your truck with a gun rack is. So all the who's that are walking around, look who's in charge, and this is how we do things around here.
Right.
So
we're
dealing with the morality of the time.
Right.
Now. And that's what we're doing. We're taking down these statues. And Rizzo, I lived at a time when and experienced who he was, and it was disgusting.
Yeah. And it's the same thing can be said for, the Confederate statues, and a lot of these statues are these Spanish conquistadors with respect to, like, the wiping out of Native American or indigenous populations. And you can make that same argument with Columbus. It's like it's a sign, it's these visuals, particularly in places like the southwest of America, these visuals of intimidation, to keep those populations in their place, to remind them, okay, this is who defeated you, and this is who is in charge. And that's got to stop. Bob, I got to let you go. Let me go to break. AC out of West, Lola out of Jenkintown, and Keisha out of South. Hold on for just one moment. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with open phone lines here on Reality Check 9D, 6.1 FM, 900 AM, Word TV, Word app. We'll be right back.
Do you need health insurance for your children? The Children's Health Insurance Program, also known as CHIP, provides quality, affordable health insurance for Pennsylvania kids. CHIP ensures that kids can go to the doctor, receive health screenings and vaccines, and get what they need to live a healthy childhood. Families can be covered by CHIP no matter how much money they make. If you've experienced a recent change in employment or income, CHIP may be a good option for your family. Visit chipcoverspakids.com to apply or learn more.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Support independent black media and join the 4Word movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com. Word Radio Digital Tip of the Week with Stephanie Humphrey.
I'm your Tech Life expert, Stephanie Humphrey, and this is your Word Digital Tip of the Week.
Video chatting on your smartphone is a wonderful way to stay in touch with family and friends, especially during this time. You actually get to see their faces and talk to them almost as if you were together. But video chatting can be a challenge if you have a different type of smartphone than the person you want to connect with. Your iPhone might not be compatible with someone else's Android phone or vice versa. When you download the Google Duo app, you can talk to anyone using any smartphone. The app is free to download and use and lets you video chat with loved ones as easily as you'd talk to them on the phone. Download Google Duo from the App Store on your iPhone or the Play Store on your Android phone. Give the app access to your contacts and camera, and make sure the person you want to video chat with has the app on their smartphone too. Get Google Duo today. Your friends and family can't wait to see you. Stay tuned to WURD for more tech tips and stay connected with us at wordradio.com.
The Word Digital Tip of the Week is brought to you by Comcast NBC Universal.
Warning. If you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt, you have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-965-5269. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you can't afford to pay off all your debt, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to. Call Credit Associates for free information on how to get debt-free faster than you ever thought possible, without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We depend on your success and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk to call. For free information, call now. 1-800-965-5269. That's 1-800-965-5269. 1-800-965-5269.
This is WURD Breaking News.
Yeah, breaking news out of Washington, and more specifically out of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court rules that employers with religious objections can be exempt from the Affordable Care Act's birth control mandate. And so the Supreme Court ruled in favor of an organization called Little Sisters of the Poor on earlier this morning, arguing that employers may be exempt from the Affordable Care Act mandates to provide birth control to employees if they object due to religious or moral reasons or moral values. So the ruling is expected to prevent anywhere, the estimate is anywhere from 70,000 to 126,000 women to lose contraceptive coverage from their employers. And that's according to the latest government estimates, but religious organizations can object to the birth control mandate in the Affordable Care Act. That's the breaking news. It's a pretty big deal ruling that's coming out of the Supreme Court today. So we'll continue to follow that. Let me go to AC out of West Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. AC?
Hey, how you doing, Brother Charles? It's always something that makes me change what I was going to talk about. I'd like to hear 4 quick points. I guess that's a gift to President Obama from Sotomayor. I didn't read it, and I can guarantee you she was one of the ones that voted for that without even reading it in the Washington Post or New York Times. But I'm going to read it because she was pushing that on her own a long time ago. So that's a thank you to him. I want to ask you about the availability of our Senator Robert Casey. I hear Cory Booker, Senator Booker from New Jersey, he's on all the time like a regular. And first, it wasn't just because he's running for president. He's always on the program. So in this pandemic and epidemic, I wonder if we will ever hear from our senator, because I just don't want to hear from him when it's time for election, Brother Charles, because if I do, every time I hear him, I'm going to turn the station off. So he needs to come on a regular basis during these critical times, not just when he's running. And to me, it stands out like a sore thumb. Number 2,
that's a good point.
Civil War, thank you, sir. Civil War statues it's very simple, on private land and in history books. To the victors cause go the storm. It's very spoils. It's very simple formula. They lost the war. They were traitors, and they should not be on any public land. And number 3, Commissioner Outlaw came on an interview on Channel 3, I think it was, and I was really flabbergasted when she said this. She says that a group of executives meet every Tuesday, and they leave. They talk about gun violence, and they leave with deliverables to come back to make the problem better. Every week they meet and they come back with deliverables, and the violence rate is skyrocketing. What kind of deliverables are they bringing back? I really would like to know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. That's a good point. And right now, the homicide rate is 29% above where it was this time last year. We have about 214 homicides to date in 2020 in the city of Philadelphia. AC, thanks for calling. Let me go to Lola out of Jenkintown, who's calling in for a reality check. Lola?
Yes, hi, Charles. It's a great show as usual. But I was just I was listening to the guy, AC. He was really good, so that's what took me off notice. I wanted to say the guy who you had on, Thomas Coonan or whatever,
Coonan, yeah.
I mean, you know, it is very just crazy, you know. I mean, you listen to people, and I know he has his point of view, and we have to listen and we have to hear people, you know what I mean, who from all different walks of life. But what really got me is that in his very monotone, you know, not laid-back type of voice, he's pushing back on even what you were saying. So it's almost like when you have an argument with somebody and the voice is raised, but his voice wasn't raised or anything, but he just kept saying, but, you know, we still need to. And if the African-American girl is walking through her neighborhood, she's still living with Rizzo. No. This is the thing, sir, and I hope you're still listening, and I hope you have an email so people can email you so you can get a gist of what we are talking about as African Americans. No, we do not want to see a statue. I was born and raised in Philadelphia. I do not want to see a statue when I take my aunt, who still lives in Philadelphia, to the municipal building of his hand waving. Who is he waving to? He's not waving to black people, because if he was waving to black people, he would have a baton in his hand so he can hit black people upside their head, because that's what he did, okay? And so I don't want to hear that about we want to see Rizzo there, and then we want to see Cecil B. Moore. No, you know, it's so infuriating, Charles, to hear this, because it's like his voice was so monotone, and it's just like, okay, well, I'm just saying it so softly, but what you're saying is speaking volumes. You're not arguing it, but what you're saying is speaking volumes that these people still should, or we should go but the times with Columbus. No, if my taxpayer paying dollars are paying for something that's sitting there that does not agree with everybody, then it should not be there. That's just it, Charles. And we need to go by that. There are black people who pay a lot of tax dollars, white people, everybody. If everybody, like how they say, if you grew up in a house, the majority rule, right? Or your parents rule. Right. If the majority rules, then we don't want those statues. We just got Octavia Cato statue there 2 years ago, a man who was killed for getting people to vote, okay? So maybe if there are white people like that or whatever, abolitionist people who helped us or whatever, okay, let's maybe try to get some of those people out. But a Rizzo, Columbus, no, none of that, Charles. And I was just appalled. Not saying he's a bad guy or anything, but you know, they need to have their listening ears on more and really see in history. Like that's
why it's like important. And Lola, I appreciate you raising that too. And man, that's why it's important to like have folks on that side of the debate understand, like, we're not on equal footing here. This is not an equal footing kind of conversation. Lola, I gotta let you go because I gotta make sure I get some other folks on. But I appreciate that point. You're very much right. I mean, those kinds of visual representations. I mean, it shouldn't be taxpayer funded. It shouldn't be on public property. And black folks in a city like Philadelphia, not just paying taxes, but also paying the lion's share of different fees and penalties that keep state and city budgets alive. Let me go to Keisha out of South Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Keisha, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, Keisha, how you doing?
Hi, how you doing?
All right.
I'm calling about this guy. Well, I'm not going to say that. But anyway, my opinion about the statues and the monuments, I believe if people want to revisit history, it should be in a library or in a museum, because the images that's being portrayed, the oppressor, like so many people that has called you and they've said the same thing that I was thinking. They just said it, more eloquently than I can express right now. But the images remind you that they are the oppressor, and they want to keep reminding you of that. Just like these brutal, these police officers that are brutalizing people, like they have these statues up and say, we did this to you in the past, like centuries ago, and we're going to continue to do this to you. Now, Columbus, they went so far as putting him in a history book as saying that he was a good person, and he's not a good person. And they still want to pursue it. That's a federal holiday. I retired from the federal government.
Right.
That was a federal holiday. And they knew the lies, and they just let it go on and on and on. And I think all these monuments of these oppressors, and Rizzo, like, I really didn't know anything about his brutality. You know, I just heard about that, like, years ago after I became grown. But I never, you know, knew that he was a bad police officer. But in any event, so this is what I'm saying. I think it should be in the history. I think if they want to maintain history, I don't think taxpayer dollars should be paying for no darn monuments or those statues that oppressors. I think it should be put away in a museum or something, and they want to go and study that person, let them do that.
That's right. No, I think you make a fine point. Keisha out of Southfield. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate you. Let me go to George out of Center City, who's calling in for a reality check. George, what's up?
It's good to hear from you, Charles. But as we say, before you say something, you should check the history. I mean, they keep making two things Rizzo did, MOVE and Black Panthers. Black Panthers volunteered to come out butt naked on their own. He didn't make them do it. MOVE, that tells a story of however it went. Everybody got a different view and opinion. But if you look at all he did and what all against what
do we know is that like that's recorded? That's like a that's an actual recorded fact that they came out naked on their own. They weren't being strip searched or
If you read the books and everything, they tell you we came out like that to make sure that we didn't get shot at anything. And some of them who are living today will tell you that.
I mean, if that, Philadelphia police, especially at that time, I mean, if you're trying to do what you got to do to survive, if you're like under fire like that or you're being targeted.
Everything you hear about that man is hearsay. Most of the people that was there, I mean, most of his key people in his whole administration was black. I mean, it wasn't even popular to do anything for blacks. Blacks was like hidden, In
his administration, really?
Yes.
I got to refresh on that. Like in his administration, he had a high number of black folks who were in senior level positions in his administration.
More than the 3 blacks that we had. Okay, the 3 black mayors we had, he had more black people in key positions. Look at sanitation. Look at all the city things there, and the person that was in charge of that was black. Okay, he had Helen Levinson as his managing director. But at the time, blacks became city workers, and I don't want to waste a lot of time on that because I didn't.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
The thing is that check your history. History, it doesn't lie. It speaks for itself. Everybody want to go on this hearsay. Like we had one fool one time didn't even live here. Only heard. He had to admit on another show. Oh, I'm telling you about what I heard. Stop talking about what you heard. Just read and understand what you read. Don't just look at the pictures and laugh at the words. Charles, this is what I called you for. We have a police commissioner that is only concerned about redoing the police department rules and how this is. And if you see the idiots she surrounds herself with, never put foot in the street of knowing what's going on in the streets or knowing how you get things done. So why don't you bring her on your show? Because for some apparent reason, she's ducking you. Oh, that's right. Brian Abernathy don't want her to come on your show. She got to do what
she's been on once, so we'll see if we can get her back again.
Well, I'm saying, Charles, bring her on and don't play with her. Ask her when is she going to put some concrete thing together, a program together to stop this violence. Don't tell me about more programs need to be paid because everybody's out looking for a paycheck, so they want the violence to keep going. If there's no violence, they can't get a paycheck. Yeah. All these little phony groups they got, they paying them millions of dollars for what? Nothing. I mean, at the end of the day, because, I'll never see them out in the streets. I don't see them at no funerals. I don't see them at no rallies. There's no rallies or nothing about people dying. Young people dying, old people dying. Everybody's dying all because of guns, getting shot, killed. So,
we do need to raise the decibels. Yeah, George, I gotta let you go because I'm coming up on break. But no, it's a fine point that George is making in terms of we're gonna have to raise the noise level on the homicide rate, on the violence rate that's in the city, and also, and I've been harping on this the past few days, there is a very high incidence of rape. There's a record percentage of rape or instances of rape, sexual assault that's happening in Philadelphia. That's something else that I know for a fact is not being talked about a lot. Has not been unpacked yet. It's something we've been talking about for the past few days on this program, and people are going to have to raise the decibel levels about that. So, I mean, if you're going to make noise, which we should make noise about police brutality and the kind of violence that police, state-sanctioned violence that police inflict on populations. But if we're going to make noise about that, we got to make noise about these concerns that I keep hearing, that we all hear, that we're all concerned about, from residents, from people who are very afraid of what's happening in many of these neighborhoods throughout Philadelphia. And so you got high violence rates and you got a high level of rape too. So people are understandably or visibly upset and anxious and afraid. And that has to be addressed. You got to have like an equal mix of noise and rallies and protests about that too. And so I think it's valid when people raise that as a concern, like, where is the noise for that? Like, where is the advocacy, the big movement level advocacy around that to ensure that communities are safe, and that and we're keeping people protected. And so that's a big concern. It's a big problem. We'll continue to talk about it tomorrow. We have to wrap this Wednesday midweek edition of Reality Check. I'm Charles Ellison. Continue to go. Thanks everyone for listening, and thanks for folks who are calling in too. At Ellison Report on Twitter.com. Also hashtag Reality Check. And want to thank Troy Wilmore for his patience as well. And he's always getting it done at the Board of Still. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate him and his efforts and getting folks to come on, getting guests booked here on the show, on the program. The Source with the Black Women's Leadership Council is up next on WURD, so keep your radio dial locked in for The Source with the Black Women's Leadership Council. I go on today, and so listen to it later tonight. Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. I'll be on that very shortly, a little bit later on, to talk with him about the politics of the week. And we will talk to you tomorrow, Thursday. There is no City Council Live tomorrow. City Council is on legislative recess. All right, Philly wants you to stay sharp, stay smart, but more importantly, please stay safe out there, okay? Have a great evening, a great afternoon, great evening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.